In a bright, calm room, Solon's mentor leans in and drops a mission straight into his hands. She slides a sealed document across to him and tells him, plain and deadly serious, this is his next job. It's an official document stamped with a detailed crest, and it's a single letter his teacher hands him, one message that hits like a heavyweight. As Solon scans the message, shock hits him instantly, because the truth inside is huge and he knows it right away. Solon studies the offer for a home tutor position, and as he remembers he was once a lowborn commoner and a roaming adventurer, he realizes this is the sort of job that can flip his entire life onto a whole new path. The story kicks over to the eastern region of the Thracian Empire, where the streets are packed with noise and a train rumbles along the outskirts. Later on, Solon gets cornered by a stranger who leads with a sincere apology, then slams him with news so brutal it hits like a punch. The man tells Solon to his face that he's getting booted from the group, and Solon just freezes there, stunned beyond words, trying and failing to wrap his head around why it's happening so fast. Cryon, a man named Cryon, stands by the window and stares back at Solon while their conversation keeps rolling on. Solon tries to get the truth out, grilling Cryon, so you're really getting fired, but Cryon just stares him down and flat out confirms it. Cryon slams the decision down for real, telling Solon he's getting kicked out of his vice-captain role, and then hits him with the worst part: Solon's membership in the entire organization is getting revoked too. Solon stares down as the air thickens with tension, and Cryon leans in, asking if Solon should just go ahead and say the real reason they're booting him out. Solon refuses to back off, flashes that sarcastic grin, and tells Cryon that it's honestly a pretty big-shot Holy Knight move for someone like him to finally explain himself. Right then, a girl bursts in, stomping her boot hard into the floor to grab their attention. The dark-haired mage steps up, jabs a finger at Solon, and screams that his exile is painfully clear, because he's downright useless to the group. Solon shuts his eyes and goes silent while she barrels on, telling him it's already decided, he's nothing but dead weight. Solon's frustration boils over as he fights back, snapping that he's never been useless, he's put in the work every single time. The mage girl waves him off and tells him flat out, sure, he can swing magic swords, fire attack spells, and even patch people up a little, but overall, he's just average at everything, and yeah, she calls him mediocre to his face. She starts sizing him up against the whole team, trashing their defense as gearless and praising Cryon for top-tier sword skills. Then she throws down the real blow: her own attack magic crushes anything he's capable of. Then she drops the bomb: Sophia, the whole leader, is handling the big, high-level healing magic. And right there in the middle of the room, Solon just stands frozen, utterly defeated, realizing he's been replaced in every single role. Solon finally snaps out a question: where's Sophia? Because he realizes the leader isn't even here to watch him get thrown out. Cryon cuts in: Sophia isn't there, but every group executive still rallies behind his exile, and Sophia's apparently totally cool with it. Solon snaps back, saying he's supposed to be one of those executives too. Cryon shoots him an icy stare and demands if it still hasn't clicked. Then Solon tells him bluntly that he's no executive anymore. Solon's face drops like the floor just vanished when they tell him the group doesn't need dead weight pulling them down. Solon refuses to drop it and hits them with the truth: this whole night order didn't grow on its own, it grew because of him. He rattles off everything he's done, from scouting new recruits and tracking down the cash to plotting those dungeon raids, then leans in and dares them: so go on, can you honestly deny I built this? Cryon doesn't even blink, he nods like, I appreciate what I did before, and then they cut him loose, deciding he's no longer needed on the team. The room drops into silence as the distance between Solon and his former friends suddenly feels bigger than ever. Solon clenches his fist so tight his knuckles ache. Sure, he can stomach getting kicked out, but the way they threw him out twists the knife. He flashes back to the days when he, Cryon, and Sophia were just kids, trading promises like they meant forever, and now he's furious they never even sat him down to talk before they made that final choice. Solon just stands there, jaw clenched, wearing pure bitterness, like his words have completely died in his throat. Next, Cryon plants a hand on Solon's shoulder, smiles cold, and drives him out, spinning him around and sending him away for good. The mage girl won't even meet his gaze. She snaps out a cold goodbye to Solon without a second glance. Cryon goes silent for a heartbeat, then tells Solon to grab his bags and get out of there, right now. Right when Solon is about to leave, a hand shoots out and grabs him so fast he doesn't even see it coming. Crayon locked eyes with him and said, "Come on, at least let's do a proper goodbye handshake." He tells them since we're not teammates anymore, we've gotta change how we talk, especially since we've been together since magic school. Solon lets out a heavy sigh and finally agrees they'll at least split as friends, then he can't ignore the truth. Crayon hasn't changed a single bit. The two of them finally clasp hands and slam shut their partnership with one last, decisive shake. Solon flashes a small grin and tells Crayon, "You've gotten seriously strong over the years, huh?" As they let go, Crayon stares down and admits, "Yeah, my drive was born from the fact that I used to be weak back then." Crayon glances back with a smug grin, bragging that everything's changed now, and that the whole country already knows just how terrifyingly powerful he's become. Crayon shoots Solon a fierce look and declares that it's finally time to end this. Then boom, he drops the bombshell and tells Solon that Sophia didn't refuse at all. She actually agreed to have him kicked out, all for his own good. Solon is totally blindsided, and what he's hearing sounds impossible. His mind can't even accept it. Clearing, Creon snaps that the party is headed for far deadlier dungeons now, and he insists Sophia was only terrified that Solon would walk into danger and end up hurt, or worse. He tells Solon to stop stressing about the knights or Sophia, because starting now he's taking over and he'll look after her in every way he can. Solon is completely thrown off by his words, and he demands to know what he means by saying he'll handle everything for her in private. Crayon locks eyes with him and drops the bombshell. He and Sophia aren't just a thing, they're actually engaged. Turns out whispers about the two of them had been bouncing around the guild for ages, because everyone knew they'd been thick as thieves for a long time. As Solon strides off, regret hits him. He thought they'd at least be straight with him, but nope, they'd been shutting him out of everything the whole time. Solon cracks a strained smile and blurts out that he finally gets what's really going on. Solon slips back into a brighter memory, someone's congratulating him, and a real, calm smile blooms on his face as the past washes over him. In the flashback, a younger Solon lights up and tells his friends he's going to launch his own night order the moment they all graduate, and Sophia leans in like, "So me and Crayon can be part of it?" Solon shoots back without a second thought, "Of course you can." Solon leans in and tells Sophia he wants her to lead the group healing. She lights up instantly, practically vibrating with excitement, and swears he can count on her. The talk swings to Crayon, who's apparently dead set on becoming a knight, and young Solon immediately slumps, admitting he's not wrong because deep down he feels utterly weak. Solon won't stay down for long. He powers back up and tells his friends, "Don't worry, I've got this." Then he swears he'll use his magic sword arts to back both of them up, and the other two start buying into it. Solon flashes a huge grin and declares the deal officially locked in. Staring at his friends, Solon grins and declares, "It's official, us three are the very first members of our future Knight Order." The three kids huddled close and clasped hands in a circle. Solon urged them to team up and forge the strongest Knight Order the Empire has ever seen, while Sophia and Crayon swore they'd go all in. Back in the present, the past slips away as Solon rides in the back of a carriage, staring out like a storm cloud, because every childhood promise he once swore by now feels like a wound, and the change is plain as day. He shakes off his funk, throws his arms up in a stretch, and realizes he's about to nod off. Then he stares out as they draw ever closer to the imperial capital. Solon stares at the floor of the bouncing carriage, chewing on one question in his head: how many days until they finally crash into the imperial capital? Lost in his thoughts, he looks up and spots a young girl perched right beside him, clutching a basket in her arms, shooting glances at him like she's about to finally speak. The moment finally comes, the girl speaks up, asks if something's been weighing on him, and Solon freezes hard, completely caught off guard. She blurts out an apology for staring, but Solon shrugs and tells her it's no big deal. Then, mid-conversation, he clocks her outfit and realizes it's top-tier quality, not what you'd expect from some ordinary traveler. She introduces herself as Clarice, then tells him she's a maid at the Imperial Palace, so he has nothing to worry about because she's not some sketchy stranger. Solon's genuinely impressed, straight up tells her, and Clarice immediately gets all bashful, scratching the back of her head like, "I wasn't trying to brag or anything." Another passenger leans in and asks if she's going home, and Clarice smiles, saying she's only there to visit her family. Then she whirls back to Solon and tells him to ditch the formal act because she's way younger than he is. Solon snaps back to his original question and asks why she'd been staring at him in the first place. then her face instantly erupts into a bright, blazing red. Clarice leans in and asks who he is, and while Solon nods, ready to give his name, doubt creeps in fast. Was sharing his real name really a smart move? She straight up admits she just wanted someone to talk to and kill the time, and when she saw he was the only guy around her age, she couldn't help but start watching him. Solon grabs a fake name and strides up to Clarice, calling himself David. He flashes a smile and says it's a pleasure meeting her, and Clarice lights up, chirping back that the feeling is totally mutual. Clarice jabs a finger at the weapon in his hands and asks, "Is this a magic sword?" Then he wonders if that means he's really a magic swordsman, and Solon's blown away that she caught it, telling her she's got an eagle eye. Clarice practically buzzes with excitement, bragging that she knows a thing or two, even if she's never actually laid eyes on a real magic sword, so Solon leans in, dying to know how she figured it out. She grins so bright it practically lights up the room, saying it's because the legendary Solon is a magic swordsman just like her. Solon's caught totally off guard when he hears his own name and blurts it back like, "Wait, that's me." Clarice lights up and confirms she's talking about him. She leans in and asks David if he's ever heard of him, then gushes non-stop about how insanely cool Solon is, like she's seriously his biggest fan. Clara starts bragging about his legendary feats, saving a saintess and charging headfirst into demons in ancient ruins, and she swears he's the true knight among knights, while the real Solon just sits there, quietly thinking she's making him sound way more impressive than he actually is. As she keeps praising him, Solon finally gets it. He made the right call by staying away from his real name. Clarice gushes about how wild it is that Solon started as a nobody, then climbed all the way to vice-captain of the Empire's strongest knight order, and Solon just sits there listening, offering simple replies while she keeps praising him. Solon kept all his thoughts locked inside, furious at himself for not even belonging to that order anymore, sure he'd become useless, while Clarice told him that normal people only get to live in peace because adventurers like Solon and now David are out there clearing the ruins. Just when it feels like everything's smooth, the horse suddenly lets out a brutal neigh, rears up and slams the carriage to a violent, screeching stop. Clarice gets slammed by the jolt and yelps in shock as the whole thing bucks them around inside. Solon streaks in, snatches Clarice before she gets hurt and holds her steady as she catches her breath. Then he asks if she's okay and she squeezes out a quick thank you while her mind is still reeling from what just happened. Clarice spun around, nervous as hell, blurting out why they just stop out in the middle of nowhere like this, while Solon was already on the hunt, scanning the land with a grim, locked-in stare. Solon's face tightens the moment he clocks it. This is the exact nightmare he was scared of, so he tells her, clear and blunt, that they're getting attacked. Clarice jolts and freezes at the news, but Solon wastes 0 seconds. He strides for the door, barks at her to stay low and stay put, and she nods fast, promising she'll do exactly what he says. As Solon steps out, he scans everything in a flash and realizes the guards are already wiped out. Around the carriage, he spots about 4 to 6 enemies split up between the front and the back. A huge, bald bandit boss with a scarred head struts forward, cackling while he lets his sword rest on his shoulder. And you can tell he's loving every second as he shouts that the folks in the carriage look like they'll fetch a fortune. The leader leans in, eyes locked on his prizes, and starts counting them out, one by one. Then he spots it, 3 men and 1 girl inside. His gaze snaps to Clarice and he leans in to say she looks like some high-class young lady, right as Clarice freezes in pure panic, clutching her things and trembling while the bandit locks onto her. The bandit leader lets out a smug grin, savoring how lucky he's been today, until Solon steps out of the carriage and the bandit freezes, eyes snapping up at him. Solon steps out of the carriage like he means business, and the creaky door swings open behind him, while the other passengers stare, wide-eyed, stuck in their seats. The bandit boss isn't buying it. He stares the kid down, eyeing him from head to toe, and demands to know if he's really trying to be a hero and defend the people trapped inside. Solon doesn't even flinch. He locks eyes with the guy and flat out says, "Yep, that's exactly what I'm about to do." At first, the leader finds it hilarious. He laughs it off and shoots Solon a question like, "So you really think you can take on the jet black mountain bandits by yourself?" When the gang's name hits the air, young David in the back loses it, but Solon stays ice calm. He repeats the name like it's nothing, then warns he won't pull any punches, telling them they'd be smarter to walk away right now. Now that comment definitely strikes a nerve. Bandit leaders square up to the Titans, and a vein bulges in his forehead as he snaps at Solon, saying he's got a big mouth and that he's heard enough. The leader snarls that Solon's arrogance is about to bite him hard. Then, while he's still talking, Solon calmly pulls his sword and the blade clicks into place. The leader snaps, losing his temper. He roars at his men to kill Solon, and the entire pack of bandits erupts into a battle cry as they slam straight into the charge toward the carriage. As the battle kicks off, David screams in pure terror, but Solon never turns. He keeps his gaze locked on the enemies rushing in. Right when the fight is about to explode, something slams the bandits to a halt. Then, in a burst of heat and flames, a hooded figure materializes out of nowhere, leaving the attackers totally scrambling. The bandit leader is left stone-stunned, struggling to even wrap his head around it as everything suddenly turns and bites back. One bandit shrieks and the rest snap to the truth. Solon isn't just a regular fighter, he's a magic swordsman, so panic erupts as he barrels straight at them. He lunges forward, fighting to stay calm as the leader snarls that those flashy tricks won't faze him. Then he hurls his massive blade with everything he's got, vowing he'll smash Solon straight into the dirt. Solon refuses to back off. His blade flares with scorching heat as he locks onto the leader, hunting for that one perfect opening to end the fight. In the blink of an eye, Solon rockets forward and buries his sword straight through the bandit leader's chest. The rest of the crew just gapes in terror as their boss gets wiped out, while one of them screams for the boss, still in total disbelief. Solon yanks his sword free from the body like it's no big deal, and the remaining bandits instantly lose their nerve, spitting curses because they can't wrap their heads around how a kid just wiped out their strongest man. As Solon stands there, blood splattered across his face, that icy stare alone sends the survivors spiraling, shaking, stammering, and terrified. The bandits instantly skid back, and one of them grabs control, telling Solon to hold up while he boasts he's got money tucked away, offering to pay him just so they can walk away alive. He shoots his friends a look to make sure they're ready to pay too, and every last one of them nods like, "Yeah, we're in." Then he turns to Solon and asks if they can just end it right there, call it even, and walk away. One of the bandits tries to wriggle out of it by offering cash, panicking and begging Solon for a price to let them walk free, then pitches it like a steal, promising to pay whatever wild number Solon calls. Solon isn't after the cash at all. He tells the guy he's got nothing worth hearing, and before the bandit can even blink, Solon cuts him off for good. Once the last bandits were dealt with, Solon stood over the fallen, sword still drawn, and finally slammed the lopsided fight to a brutal end. As the noise dies down, Solon's face tightens into something heavy. He tells himself this isn't his first time taking a life, but it still doesn't get easier. David suddenly shouted from the carriage, yanking Solon straight out of his dark spiral. Solon asks if everyone's alright, and David leans out to tell him that thanks to his help, not a single person has a scratch. Clarice peeks out from the carriage too, shaken but refusing to be useless, and asks if there's anything she can do to help him out. Solon takes the offer, then leans in and orders them to test the carriage, make sure it's still strong enough to move so they can escape that place. David shoots him a quick nod, then bolts toward the carriage, leaving Solon alone, staring at his own hand like it's suddenly got answers. He stares at his hand and it hits him again. No matter how many times he pulls the trigger, he'll never get used to the weight of ending a life. David leans out of the carriage, waves wildly, and shouts that everything's set. Then Solon shoots back a quick reply, nodding like got it. David takes a breath and lets his gratitude hit the air, thanking Solon for stepping in and blasting their way out of the bandits. From the sidelines, Clarice cranes her neck and asks what Solon's doing, and David realizes he's actually holding a memorial for the dead, then scoffs that it's a little ridiculous to go this far for a pack of bandits. Still, David admits they can't just walk away and leave those bodies there, because he finally gets why Solon needs to act. Solon stands alone in the woods, staring over one of the fallen men, and slips into a quiet, broken prayer. He thrusts out his hand and begs for the soul of the man he just killed to be saved. He knows his prayers probably won't count for much since he isn't a priest or anything holy, but he still can't just turn his back and walk away, so he decides to speak anyway. David's voice snaps through the silence, asking if he's going to be much longer, and it knocks Saul completely off guard. Solon shoots an apology off the top of his lungs and bolts back toward the carriage to catch up with the others. Under the night sky, as the carriage finally lurches back into motion, Clarice tells David that he can't help noticing Solon and David look an awful lot alike. Solon gets hit with a jolt when the talk suddenly swings to him and he scrambles to play it smooth, claiming it's an honor being compared to a legend like that. Clarice blurts out that she's never actually met the real Solon before, and Solon just sits there quietly, listening, totally amused by the fact that he's right in front of her, while Clarice insists the genuine Solon is just as strong and capable as David claims. Solon lets out a shaky laugh and awkwardly nods along, swallowing his nerves like, yeah, sure. He tells himself, I'm not perfect and I can't fix everything, but he can finally breathe because for now everyone's safe. Clarice grinned like the sun, beaming that she's just so thrilled they all survived the bandit attack with not a scratch on them. Now the adrenaline fades and the danger finally feels gone. Clarice admits she's suddenly hit with the kind of exhaustion that knocks the wind right out of her. Solon tells her to grab some sleep since they won't reach the next town until around noon, then he tosses her a blanket to make it easier, and she takes him up on it right away. As she pulls the covers up, Solon leans in and tells her, sleep well, have a good night. Right when she's finally getting comfortable, Clarice blurts his name and calls out to him. Solon snaps his head over and asks what's really bothering her. She pauses for one real moment, looks him dead in the eyes, and thanks him for stepping in and shielding them from those bandits. Solon gives her a quick nod and tells Clarice, yeah, you're good, right as she settles in for the night. He sits in the quiet carriage, lost in thought, and the weird truth hits him. Being thanked for protecting someone feels insanely good, even with his life in total mess. With the night order still haunting his mind, he slips back into his old life when he was laser-focused on shielding Sophia, Cryon, and the rest of his comrades at all costs. Then it hits him hard. He's lost his place as their protector. He looks completely crushed as he finally admits the truth to himself. He has no power left to protect those guys, and he can't even stand and fight beside them anymore. He just freezes, eyes fixed on nothing, trying to figure out what that decision even does to him next. As the carriage rolls beneath the stars, he starts wondering, what in the world is he even supposed to protect from here on out? Solon finally pushes through and reaches the imperial capital, and the second he steps onto those packed streets, he scans the chaos, realizing it's been way too long since he last walked these city streets. He decides it's time to move, so he knocks out a few things before he keeps going. He stops at a stall, tells the shopkeeper he wants 4 of the things on display, and the lady quickly packs them up and hands them to him. Solon grabs his purchase and heads out, praying the people he's visiting haven't changed their taste since the last time he saw them. Staring up at the giant clock tower in the capital, Solon grips his suitcase and can't help wondering how his old professor is doing these days. He finally shows up at the Imperial Magic Academy, the very place he, Sophia, and Cryon once called home, and even as a commoner he still clawed his way into an education meant for nobles. He only got in because his old employer, a noble who actually cared, pulled strings for him and let him attend while he was still working as a servant. This is the school where the whole crew finally collided, clicked instantly, and became best friends, until graduation when they launched their night order and fought side by side. Solon strides through the same old halls and slams his fist against a heavy lionhead knocker on a door. He leans his head into the room, shoots off an apology, and calls out to Professor Lucy. Inside that jam-packed book tower of an office, a woman hunched over her desk instantly looked up, startled to see who had just walked in. Professor Lucy, she lights up, grins at Solon with a warm smile and tells him she's thrilled he stopped by. As she sweeps her hair back, she blurts that it's crazy rare for him to pop up in the capital out of nowhere like this, so she hits him with the question, straight up, did something happen to pull him back? Solon grins and tells her it's been ages, then admits that Lucy is his real mentor, this legendary magical genius who snagged a top teaching spot at the academy while she was still just a teenager. Lucy blurts out that she heard the night order is swamped in the east, then fires a question at Solon, are you the only one who made it back to the capital? Solon answers, dead serious, yeah, I'm the only one here. Lucy shoots him a thoughtful glance, then hums softly to herself as she studies him. She locks eyes with him for a beat, then starts to say his name, only to trail off like she just spotted something shocking. Lucy teases him, asking if he's only been standing there staring because her beauty has him hooked. Then Solon snaps to it and realizes, right on the spot, that her personality is exactly the same as the last time he saw her. Solon finally caves in and admits the truth. He was mostly looking because he just can't lie his way out of it. This makes Lucy look insanely smug, like she's trying to hide a grin with her hand. She boasts that of course he keeps staring because hey, she's drop-dead gorgeous, while Solon just stands there watching her like nothing ever changes, the same big ego she's always had even if he's already grown used to it. Lucy blurts out that back when he was still a student, everyone probably burned with jealousy, because how could anyone not envy having a gorgeous professor as a mentor? Solon shoots back that she forgets the truth. Back then she was still just a young girl. Lucy snaps at him like she's annoyed he always nitpicks her words, but then she drops the act and goes straight for the real question. How did it actually go for him back at the academy? Solon tells her it was all real, a nightmare, because every single day the other students hit him with non-stop resentment, and it got so explosive people started throwing down and challenging him to duels, leaving Lucy wide-eyed at just how much drama he had to survive. Solon tells her that back then everyone side-eyed him for showing up at the academy since he was just a commoner, and yeah, he admits he wasn't some sword or magic prodigy either. Lucy doesn't let it slide, calling him out for being an average student through and through, and Solon doesn't even argue because he knows she's right. Lucy tells Sol there's no secret, complicated reason she took him under her wing, and it totally blindsides him, leaving him staring in shocked surprise. She locks eyes with him, tone sharp and deadly serious, and tells him she picked him as her student for one reason, because she saw real talent in him, nothing else mattered. Solon drops his gaze like the words hit too hard, refusing the compliment, then admits he honestly thinks he's got zero talent. Lucy shuts him down on the spot, flashing the truth in his face. He's done way more than he gives himself credit for. She reminds him he built the strongest night order in the Empire and his record is every bit as solid as any elite adventurer. Then she leans in and asks, "Can't you see how amazing that is?" Solon's eyes drop as he calls out her logic like it's glaringly wrong, then he hits her with the truth. No matter what she just claimed, he still got kicked out of the exact group he helped build. Lucy freezes in shock then fires back, "What do you mean?" the second he says he got kicked out. Later, Solon plops on the couch and lays out every single detail of how things spiraled into disaster. Then Lucy reads his story in silence, drops her gaze, and whispers that it's just such a damn shame it ended like this. Solon tries to play it cool, mumbling that it couldn't be helped since the Night Order no longer had a place for him, but the second Lucy hears that, her temper flares, she snaps and demands what the hell he thinks he's doing, saying something like that. She flips out, screaming that everything is horrible, then rips into them for dumping him after he practically built that Night Order himself, while Solon just sits there, utterly stunned, like he can't believe her fury on his behalf. Solon gazed at Lucy with a gentle grin and thanked her for every word she'd said. As they settle in with tea, Solon leans in and admits he's basically a master of everything and king of nothing, really. He tells her he knows he'll never hit that top-tier powerhouse level like Cryon, Sophia, or even Lucy, and then he asks, "Don't you feel the same?" Lucy hears him out but she won't buy it. She tells him, "Sure you feel that way, but it's not the whole story." Then she leans in and hits him with the truth. She's certain he's hiding a completely different kind of power inside. Solon asks Lucy if she's only saying all this to comfort him because he's feeling low, and Lucy ups the game by offering a hug and a head pat. Then Solon shuts her down instantly. Lucy pushes the question, "So what's he doing next?" Solon says he's staying in the imperial capital for now, but first things first, he has to land a new job. Hearing that, Lucy grins, timing's perfect. She tells him, "If you're looking for work, look at what I've got right here." She shoves a document into his hands and Solon stares at it like, "Wait, what are you plotting?" Solon reads the paper and spots the job listing, and the shock hits him so hard he asks if she's really serious about him becoming her tutor. Lucy shoots him a confident grin, nods along, and tells him that since she used to be his mentor, this is exactly his next official mission. Solon leans closer at the paper and then stops cold because there's the imperial family's official seal stamped right on it, and he blurts to Lucy, "What is this? This can't be a regular teaching job." Lucy jabs a finger at the paper Solon's gripping and snaps that everything he needs is all right there, staring him in the face. She points at him and makes it crystal clear. His new gig is tutoring the Empire's 18th princess, Philia. Solon is totally blindsided by the news, but Lucy flashes him a sweet look and tells him he should be thankful, because that awesome mentor is seriously watching out for him. Lucy breaks down why they're even asking. Princess Philia looks up to adventurers and she's been hunting a real magic swordsman, strong, noble, and the kind who uses their power to help people in need, but finding someone who truly matches that ideal has been brutal. Lucy tells him she finally tracked down the perfect guy for the job, and Solon admits it's exactly him, but he can't wrap his head around why someone from the royal family would chase someone like him. Solon starts to argue, but Lucy cuts him off on the spot, telling him that no matter what he thinks, he's the perfect fit for a teaching role. She tells her straight up, he's a big name all across the imperial capital, so of course the princess must have heard plenty of stories about him. Solon can't shake his doubts and he leans in and demands, "Lucy, how can you be so damn sure about all of this?" Lucy flashes a smile and tells him it's because he's her star student, and she couldn't be prouder. Later on, Solon strides toward the palace. Then a guard slams his way across the path and demands to know his business, and Solon answers by flashing the introduction letter Lucy gave him. The guard scrutinizes the letter, flashes a green light, and tells Solon he's cleared to enter, so Solon shoots back a thanks, then strides straight into the palace grounds. As Solon sweeps his eyes around, that weird feeling hits. He can't shake it, like he's somehow in the wrong place, wondering if the royal family really meant to summon someone like him. He can still see Lucy's face as she leans in and tells him with total confidence that everything's going to be fine. Solon pauses for half a breath, pumps himself up, "I can do this," then stomps forward with a hard, steady stride, locking in his focus. Lucy's voice keeps echoing in the back of his mind. She swears he's got this. Solon cracks a little and admits he's nervous, but he refuses to let fear slow him down. Since he's already signed on, he decides to go all in and give this gig his absolute best, pushing forward toward the palace as Lucy's voice hits him, reminding him he's going to be an amazing teacher for the princess. The imperial palace dwarfs everything, planted dead center in the capital, built from the empire's richest gold and top-tier tech, and it's where the emperor, the empress, and the entire royal family live. As Solon strides through the grounds, it hits him. This is the first time he's truly been here since his Magic Academy graduation, and the sheer size of the place dwarfs everything he's ever known. He smirks to himself, still shocked that he'd never once imagined this random place would turn into his new job. While he keeps walking, he remembers Lucy warning him that even though Philia wears a princess title, she's only 18th in line, so she basically has no real power or sway inside the palace. Professor Lucy lays it all out and says, since the princess's mother died, she's been standing alone in this palace, no one to back her, no one to shield her. She points out that the princess is so cut off from everyone that they can't afford a fake, so they have to find a tutor they can truly trust. Solon nods and it finally hits him. This job is bigger than he thought. Lucy says the palace contacted the Magic Academy for a referral, then snaps the story back. Turns out the request never went to the school at all. It landed on her desk personally. Solon's thrown for a second, but Lucy just smirks and says, "I've got my own way to reach her," then adds that she's only relieved they finally nailed the perfect person for the role. Lucy locks eyes with Solon and tells him she's counting on him to keep the princess safe and cared for. As Solon strides through the palace halls, he can't shake the fact that he hasn't seen Lucy this deadly serious in ages. This assignment isn't just important, it's all that matters. Solon pushes deeper into the building and spots a maid standing perfectly still right in the middle of the hallway. He clocks how young she looks and wonders if she's waiting on someone, then she snaps her gaze up and locks eyes with him. The girl fires the question, "Are you Solon?" And the moment he says yes, she leans in and declares, "I'm Rhea," then reveals she's one of Princess Philia's personal attendants. Rhea dips into a graceful bow and offers to escort him straight to the princess's room. Solon flashes his thanks and falls in step with her. Solon beams at Rhea and thanks her for guiding him through the palace with nothing but kindness and solid help. Rhea goes dead silent for a second and just stares at him, and that's when Solon snaps, yeah, he might have been a little too formal. Rhea bursts into giggles and tells Solon the rumors are true, he's really the nicest guy around, and she even adds that he doesn't have to speak that overly polite way to a maid. Solon's cheeks burn with embarrassment and he blurts out an apology, confessing that he's freaking out over everything that's happening. Rhea can't stop laughing that a famous hero like him is this nervous, so she offers to haul his bag. Solon smiles, says thanks, but straight up insists he doesn't see himself as a hero at all. Even though he swears it's not true, Rhea locks eyes with him and flat out tells him that in her mind he's definitely the one. She shoots him a warm smile and blurts out that she's just thrilled she finally gets to talk to a hero like him. Solon thanks her, but he's totally flustered by every compliment, like he doesn't know where to put his face. Then Rhea starts walking again and tells him, "Come on, follow me this way." While they're walking, Rhea suddenly stops dead and yells for his name. Solon snaps around to find out what she needs. Rhea drops her gaze to the floor and asks him how she can someday grow as strong as he is. Solon gets totally blindsided by the question Rhea just threw at him. Rhea finally fesses up. She doesn't just admire him, she wants to be a magic swordsman just like him. She frets she's stepping out of line just because she's new, but Solon snaps her out of it. Turns out he believes she's got more natural talent than he ever had. Rhea fires back asking if he's serious, and Solon doesn't blink. He says he is. Then he leans in and explains, "Since I'm a magic swordsman too, I can tell when someone actually has real magic in them." While Solon's mind races about becoming a legendary sage with the right training, Rhea lights up with stars in her eyes and blurts out, "So, will you be my master?" Solon is thrown into sheer shock by the sudden request. Rhea leans in and swears she'll get strong if he'll teach her himself. He flashes her a slightly awkward smile and admits she might be right, but inside he's scratching his head, because where in the world is this sudden change coming from? Rhea pushes harder and asks him straight up if there's any way he can get her accepted into the Magic Academy. She starts to fumble over her words, blushing hard because the huge favor she's about to ask for feels almost too big to say out loud. Rhea drops her gaze to the ground and murmurs that she knows it's probably hopeless for someone like her to get in. Solon clocks it instantly and thinks, if Rhea really had a way into the academy, she wouldn't be stuck working here as a maid. Rhea snaps out of her trance, whips her gaze back to Solon and tries to push the conversation forward. She flashes a huge smile, rushes out an apology for how weird she sounded, then admits she got carried away, telling him to just ignore it. She starts moving again, tells him they're basically at the princess's room, then Solon cuts her off, right in her tracks. He shouts at her to stop and Rhea whips around, wondering what he wants now. Solon's a little shy, but he tells her straight up, if she's good with it, he'll give her advice or at least sit down and talk everything through. He says, since I'm going to teach the princess anyway, helping her out is no big deal. Rhea's eyes suddenly light up at the offer. Rhea grills him, demanding to know if he's dead serious and forces him to swear it. Then Solon answers, yeah, and she explodes into jumping joy, thanking him non-stop while he shrugs it off like it's no big deal at all. Rhea's in a killer mood, telling him to hurry into the room, and Solon trails behind, freaking out that his non-stop talking might get him in trouble on day one. They finally slam into their destination. Rhea jabs a finger at a door and declares, that's the princess's room. Solon shoots back a quick, grateful thank you for the help. Rhea yells at Solon to go in on the right and swings the door wide, thunk. Then the sudden click of the handle and the door flying open leaves Solon totally blindsided. Solon is freaking out. She just stormed into the princess's room without even knocking. Panic hits hard, and as she steps inside, she blurts out a polite greeting she can't even get out right. He follows her into the room, but Rhea freezes mid-step, lets out a baffled sound, and whips her gaze around like she can't figure out what's happening. The chair by the window sits empty, and Rhea's gut drops because the person they're hunting isn't there. She scans the area like crazy, voice ringing with questions as she wonders where Princess Philia could have vanished to. Then the whole vibe snaps. Rhea drops her gaze and blurts out that she's sorry for lying to Solon. She starts toying with her hair and admits she only wanted one thing, to see what kind of person he truly is. For 1/10 second, the whole room goes silent as the maid persona starts slipping away. Rhea blurts that she's finally relieved he's just as kind as she'd hoped, and when Solon locks eyes with her, total shock hits him, because it suddenly clicks and the questions start spilling out. Who is she, really? With that grin on her face, she thinks she's just a helpful maid. Then bam, the maid turns out to be Princess Philia herself. Philia finally steps up to Solon, introduces herself with no games and drops the truth. Her real name is Philia. Solon looks utterly shaken as he blurts her name again and again, trying to wrap his head around the fact that the princess is right there in front of him, so he demands proof, and she answers with nothing but a calm, simple nod. With a bright, cheerful grin, she leans in and tells him, honestly, yeah, I'm the princess of this country. Solon leans toward the window and all at once the truth slams into him. quietly realizing why everything suddenly makes so much more sense. Philia leans back and lays out her plan. She wanted to see who he really was when he wasn't trying to impress royalty, not when he was pretending. She tells him most people freeze up and get jittery around her, so she figured he'd be the same. Solon admits anyone with a pulse would have been terrified in that moment, but Philia tells him she caught her worries fast, because they turned out to be nothing. She keeps going and she's like, yeah, he's insanely strong, but he doesn't carry himself like a show-off at all. Trust me, he's genuinely humble and kind, even better than all the rumors I'd heard. Solon gets flustered, blurts out that he's not actually such a great guy, and then he stops cold mid-sentence the instant he sees her move. Philia suddenly realizes what she's done, panic claws at her chest, and she rushes to fix it. She apologizes for all that talking without even pouring a single drop of tea, then tells him to wait while she scrambles to get some ready. Solon is horrified and lunges to stop her, blurting that a princess can't seriously be about to brew tea herself, right? Philia just turns to him, deadpan, and asks if he's really making a big deal out of it, like she's totally content to keep playing maid. Solon stares as the tea streams into his cup and stress tightens all over him, because this is really happening and now he's spiraling. Can a princess really pour tea for him like this? Solon tries to jump in and take over, but Philia shoots him a cheeky wink and tells him to stop treating her like some helpless kid, because making a cup of tea is, to her, the easiest thing in the world. Philia tells him to keep his eyes wide and watch everything closely. Then she snaps her fingers and pops a tiny flash of light that heats the whole situation up fast. Solon's genuinely impressed. Here's this kindling fire magic, and she's already got a real grip on it, while Philia beams, proud as can be, saying the real secret to a perfect cup of tea is simple. Get the water to a full non-stop boil. As she pours the water, Solon can't help but wonder who on earth taught her magic in the first place. A few seconds later, Philia slams the cup down in front of him and tells him it's ready. She urges Solon to take a sip, insisting she's rooting for him to actually end up loving it, so Solon grabs the cup and agrees to try. Solon takes a steaming sip of hot tea, and Philia stares at him like her life depends on his reaction. Philia presses him for his thoughts and Solon grins and tells her it's actually amazing. Then he points out that the tea leaves she used have to be top tier. Philia is totally stunned by his comment, and for one crazy second she loses it, yelling, wait, you can really judge how good these tea leaves are from just one sip. Solon says he's been digging into the details and asks if the tea is that spring-picked kind from the Grey Kingdom. Philia practically explodes with excitement and swears he nailed it perfectly. Philia is blown away that he can read all that just from one sip, but Solon shrugs it off and tells her it's no big deal, anyone could do it if they studied a bit. He flashes back to his time with the knights, replaying how he had to wrangle trade just to keep their money under control, and that grind forced him to learn all kinds of stuff he never expected. Philia suddenly goes quiet, then blurts out that she's honestly really glad. Solon whips his eyes to her, stunned by the sudden shift in her mood. Solon leans in and asks what could possibly make her so happy, and Philia locks eyes with him, smiling like she's about to confess, because she's talking about him. She admits that because he's so much more mature than her, she low-key panicked at first, but now she's relieved because he treats her like an equal and talks to her like normal, the same way her maid Rhea does. Phileas grins, totally relieved that he's not the kind of guy who swells up with pride after playing hero or lets his status go to his head. Solon shifts, looking a bit awkward, and says he's honored she thinks that way, then starts to argue anyway. Solon tries to tell her he's not the great person she thinks he is, but Philia snaps at him and cuts him off. She crowds his space, demands that since he's her master now, he drops the formal act and talks to her like a normal person. Solon is totally caught off guard by how fast this turns, but Philia isn't finished. She glances aside and flat out tells him she wants him to stop calling her Your Highness, too. She glances back at him a little shy and tells him, call me by my name, Philia. Solon tells her straight up that even if she begs him, there's no way he can swallow that kind of information all at once, because in his head, he knows he can't just ditch the formalities and start chatting with royalty like they're old buddies. Solon freezes, a sharp little gasp escaping him as his mind catches up to just how deadly serious her request is. Philia bounces on the sofa, begging Solon to say her name even more, but Solon's already packed with stress. This situation is intimidating enough, and he won't toss her name around for no good reason. Philia leans in and flat out tells him to say her name even when there's no real reason to talk at all, and Solon looks stunned by her non-stop energy, asking if she honestly enjoys it that much. Philia flashes him a huge, bright smile and practically declares, "Yep, absolutely, without a doubt I do." She blurts out the real reason she's glowing, because not a single soul in her life uses her actual name. Her words slam into Solon's chest and then, boom, everything clicks. He finally sees it. With her exact role as a princess, she's basically trapped in the imperial palace, isolated and wielding next to no real power. Solon can't help but think that nobody with a brain would go out of their way to get close to a princess who holds no real power, while Philia sinks into deep thought and hints that maybe he doesn't even need to toss out fancy titles like lady when he talks to her. Philia's practically vibrating with excitement and blurts, "Solon, right now, call me by my name, no honorifics." And the second it hits, Solon's face drains as panic kicks in. He's begging her to give him a break because that's way too much for him to take. Philia's face falls and she says it's a shame he won't do it. Then her mood flips fast and she grins. She'll forgive him for now. Solon leans in with a respectful bow and tells Philia he genuinely can't thank her enough for how thoughtfully she's been treating him. Philia beams up at him with a bright grin, saying it's great to see him again and calling him just by his name, while Solon stays locked in and professional, telling her the pleasure is all his. Philia snaps to attention, checks the clock and bolts out, yelling that she needs to change clothes before anyone catches her, while Solon panics a little and offers to step out for privacy, only for her to cut him off fast, saying it's totally fine and that he should just stay right where he is. As the door shuts, Solon freezes, way too nervous, spiraling in his head about whether he has any right to be in there while she changes. Then boom, someone starts pounding on the door. The door bursts open and Rhea, the maid with glasses, slips inside, hunting for the princess, then asks straight up if her highness is around. Rhea slams on the brakes when she spots Saul just standing there, then stares him up and down and fires, "Who in the world are you?" Solon stays totally calm and introduces himself, saying he's the princess's new tutor. Then Rhea just stares back with a flat, unimpressed reaction while the words fully sink in. A smug little grin curls up on Rhea's face as she stares at him. She asks if he's really the new tutor, then smirks that he's a poor soul for even taking the job. Solon looks totally baffled, blurting her words back like he can't believe them, and he's still stuck on why she called him a poor thing. Meanwhile, Rhea turns to leave and tells him straight up to hand the princess her message once she's back. As she's heading out, Rhea leans in and orders him to tell Philia she needs to step it up and manage her maids way better. The door slams shut and Solon is left alone in the aftermath, completely wiped out from the whole ordeal. He digs through Professor Lucy's words in his head and suddenly realizes she was dead on. Around here, nobody gives the princess the respect she deserves. Then the door clicks open again and he snaps his head up, curious as to who's slipped back inside. It's Philia, and the second she sees him, she blurts out a heartfelt apology for leaving him to handle that awkward mess all by himself. Solon shrugs it off like no big deal, but she still thanks him. Then she snaps that if Teodora had caught her, she'd be in absolute major trouble. Solon's tone turns sharp. He leans in and demands to know if that person from earlier was really a maid or not. Philia blurts out that Rhea's actually got only one maid herself, and Solon's completely thrown off as he stammers, "Wait, she really only has one person taking care of her." Philia flashes him a dazzling smile and flat out admits she barely has any staff at all. Solon's thoughts start spiraling, and he can't stop wondering if the way he said it landed as rude or insensitive. He clears his throat, fires off a quick question about where the maid went, and then says he wants to properly introduce himself, because they're going to be running into each other a lot. Solon starts to panic that his questions about her staff might have been way out of line, but Philia cuts straight in. "Did you say something weird that made me react like that?" And he shoots back fast, "No, not at all." He tries to get his point across, stumbling with every word, looking awkward as he scrambles to explain why her whole situation has him so completely stunned. Philia is about to blurt out her next words when a tiny clattering sound snaps everyone's attention from across the room. Solon yells, "What's that noise?" And Phileas whips around, points at it and says, "It looks like a letter just arrived." They stride over and spot an envelope tucked inside a tiny slot, like the room just secretly has its own mailbox. Solon can't wrap his head around it and Philia just grins and confirms, "It's definitely for a guy." Solon snatches up the envelope and thrusts it into her hands. She grabs it, smiles, and thanks him. As she stares at the seal, Philia blurts out that finding males is crazy rare for her, and Solon clocks the shift instantly, watching her like something's changed. She goes still for a heartbeat, eyes locked on that letter, and Solon blurts her name fast like, "Hey, you good?" Philia finally takes a deep breath, locks eyes with him, and decides, no more hiding, she's going to tell him exactly what's really going on. She locks eyes with Solon and blurts the truth. Her maid is gone right this second, and that's why she's standing there all alone. Solon is totally stunned by what Philia just dropped on him. He's so thrown off that his brain can barely keep up with the news. Philia admits her maid is kind and serious, sure, but she's also wildly unreliable and always ends up botching something, so Philia's convinced the girl couldn't possibly have slipped back to her family home without saying a single word to anyone. Solon leans in, watching the gloom deepen on Philia's face, and then she drops the blunt truth: she's gone. Philia drops her gaze to the dirt, shrinking into that defeated look as she double-checks. Yes, her maid is truly gone. She says that's exactly why her gut screamed something was off about the whole situation. Then she drops her eyes to the letter they just uncovered and dives into what it says. The letter isn't just a message, it's a ransom note. It claims they've snatched her maid, Clarice, and calls it straight: if Philia wants the girl alive, she has to show up and take her back alone. The second Solon hears Clarice, his face goes wide-eyed and stunned, like the name just unlocked a secret, and now stress is creeping fast over him. Trying to be 100% sure, Solon presses Philia for the truth. What does the girl really look like? Philia smiles and says she's small and adorable with flaxen hair and only a bit taller than Solon. Solon's mind snaps back to the girl he met on the carriage, and boom, the details line up perfectly. He's now 100% sure the maid who got kidnapped is the very same girl he talked to before. Philia clocks him drifting off and snaps, "Solon," to pull him back, and he blurts it off like it's nothing, until he turns serious and tells her they can't waste another second and have to contact the guards immediately. Philia goes totally wide-eyed the second Solon brings up pulling the guards into this. She yanks him to a stop, screams that these guards are useless, and totally loses it at the thought of having to report this to palace security. Solon is caught completely off guard by her sudden outburst, and he can't believe what he's just hearing. Solon presses her on why she's so against it, then it clicks in his head: that ransom letter never had a name or an address on it. That realization hits like a brick, because the letter landed in her room unopened. No one else touched it, which means the kidnapper is someone who works inside the imperial palace. Philia clenches her sleeve so hard her knuckles ache, then blurts out that she can't trust a soul inside the palace. She has no idea who's really her ally and who's secretly the enemy. Her face crumples as she admits Clarice was the only person she ever truly trusted. Solon clocks it instantly: those kidnappers aren't after the maid, they're gunning straight for Philia. And yeah, he knows he could push the idea of abandoning Clarice to keep the princess alive, but he just can't make himself say it. Solon flashes a gentle smile and leans in, asking Philia straight up if she thinks she can trust him. Philia just gapes at him, totally thrown by that question. Solon clocks the look on her face and admits it straight: he's just some guy she met today, not some big mystery. Philia locks eyes with Solon and tells him, "You're my mentor because I personally called you, so I can't not trust you." And Solon practically exhales in relief, smiling like, "I'm so glad to hear that." Solon tells her to hand him everything for the rest of the day, and Philia stares at him, softly whispering his name, until that calm, locked-in security finally settles in. She grips her chest tight and demands, "Tell me, can you really save me and bring Clarice back safe?" Solon drops into a deep bow, hand pressed to his chest, and tells her straight up, he's come to this palace to serve her as both her mentor and her subject, because a subject must protect their lord and a mentor must guide their student. Solon clocks just how wrecked she looks and snaps, "Stop looking that sad." Then he grins and swears Clarice would tell her the exact same thing if she were standing right there. Philia steadies her breath, gives a hard nod, and you can tell she's way more determined than she was a second ago. Now that they finally see eye to eye, Solon urges them to start gearing up right away, and Philia jumps on it instantly. Philia fires off the truth: her dress is way too loud and she'll stick out like a beacon, so she turns on her heel to change back into her maid uniform, and Solon just watches her go. When he nods, she tells him she's got one more thing to double-check before she slips out the door. Just as she's about to walk out, Solon suddenly remembers something crucial and blurts it out. Philia halts mid-step and fires back. What's going on? Solon's face turns grim as she leans in and demands to know whether her clues point to why anyone would set sights on her in the first place. Philia stares down, her hand shaking against her chest, and she finally admits she knows why someone's targeting her, but the words get stuck and she can't quite find the right way to say it. Solon clocks her hesitation and realizes she can't really get into the details, so he cuts in fast, telling her she doesn't owe him any more words. He tells her that saving her comes first, no matter why the attack happened, and he even apologizes for digging into her private life. Philia grips her skirt and whispers her thanks because he's finally being so understanding. Once Philia slips out to change, Solon drops into a heavy sigh alone in the room, staring at the chaos and realizing his simple tutoring gig has blown up into a full-on disaster. Stress tightens his face and his gaze turns razor-sharp. He knows the stakes are everything and he forces himself to believe one thing: failure isn't allowed. He starts sizing up his backup options, wishing he could call in help, but Professor Lucy is out of the capital today, and there's absolutely no way he can pull the Night Order into this. Solon drops onto the couch, runs the rescue plan through his head, and knows one brutal truth: everything hinges on how many enemies pile up on him all at once. He studies the map of the meeting spot, clocks that the area opens up like a wide stage, and realizes, based on the layout, that they likely won't roll in with some giant crowd. He snaps his head into his hands for a moment, stunned at how absolutely wild his very first day on the job has turned. Alone in the silent study, Solon shuts his eyes, takes a deep breath to steady his shaking nerves, and tells himself time to lock in and stay locked on because the next move is about to hit. Philia drops her gaze, clutching her chest with both hands, and begs Solon's forgiveness for every bit of chaos she's brought. Solon stays stone calm and presses her straight up, asking if she has any idea why these people are hunting her. Philia looks totally wrecked and starts to confess that it's probably because of who she is, but she just can't make herself finish the sentence. She sucks in a shaky breath to steady herself, and Solon softens his voice, calling her name to make sure she's really okay. They roll up near the meeting spot in a pitch-black alley, and Solon squints, saying it's only one corner away, then orders everyone to split up right now so they stay invisible. Philia looks freaked out by the whole thing, but she shoots him a small nod like, "I got it, this is the plan." Sensing her tension, Solon turns to her and shoots, "Are you scared of what's coming next?" Philia tries to play it cool, insisting she's not a little kid and pretending she isn't scared in the slightest. Even with her acting like she's got everything under control, Solon can feel her hand shaking as she grips his sleeve, because yeah, her real feelings are screaming loud. Solon flashes her a steady smile and tells her it's time to move, then swears they're getting Clary's back no matter what hits them. Philia's sweating buckets, jaw locked tight with pure terror as she braces herself to take on the bandits. It's 2 a.m. and she's walking to the meeting spot solo, heart hammering as she runs the plan through her head. Solon will stay hidden and keep the conversation going so he can pin down exactly how many people they're really up against. And she's got to stay ice calm, pry for answers, and never give the kidnappers a reason to turn on her. She draws in a deep breath, trying to talk herself into believing everything will be okay. As she pushes deeper down the alley, she glances back at Solon, clinging to the hope that if everything goes wrong, he'll show up and pull her out of it. Out of the darkness, a voice suddenly crashes through, "Good evening, princess," and Philia jerks in shock, totally blindsided by the greeting. She hears footsteps crack the air and whips her head over her shoulder, zero hesitation. She locks onto the dark doorway beside her, breath held tight, waiting to catch the face of whoever steps out to meet her. A figure steps out of the shadows and, with a sharp grin, admits they never thought the princess would come in person. A woman smirks and admits she might have totally underestimated just how ironclad the princess's resolve really is. Teodora strides all the way into the light, two men crowding her sides like bodyguards, and she leans in and tells Philia, sure, her arrival is shocking, but it doesn't change a thing about what's about to go down. Solon's eyes blow wide as he finally locks onto the figure in front of Philia, and instantly he realizes who it is. It hits him in a gut. Philia was right to be terrified, and this snaps his suspicions into place. Someone from inside the imperial palace is pulling the strings. Philia barrels into Teodora and pins her as the one who ditched that threatening letter. No questions, no hesitation, and Teodora doesn't even bother to deny it. She just shrugs and says it would have been way easier for everyone if the princess had called the guards like a normal person. Philia shrugs off the attitude and sprints straight to Clarice. She grabs her attention and blurts frantic, "Tell me you're okay." Teodora smirks and tells her the girls got not a single scratch, then shrugs like it's no big deal, insisting they're not villains at all. She snaps that Clarice is a pretty useless maid, then insists they've got zero reason to hurt her, no excuse, no reason at all, while Clarice, tied to the chair behind them, slumps there completely crushed. Teodora stands between her two guards, locks eyes with Philia, and declares their real mission is nothing as simple or as cruel as just hurting people or kidnapping for the thrill of it. She drops the real bombshell, saying their only wish is for that filthy princess to vanish from the world. Hiding in the shadows, Solon is utterly baffled. He can't even understand why Teodora would label Philia disgusting, or what she's trying to say. Philia just freezes, staring at the ground like she can't process it, completely shattered by the raw hatred pouring out of someone she actually knows. Solon peeks at Philia from his hiding spot, and the moment he sees her, something's off. She's trembling hard like she's one breath away from shattering. Teodora smirks and spits out Princess Philia like it's poison, glaring at the girl and saying the very sound of that name makes her skin crawl. She digs in and keeps pushing, snapping that she's disgusted by the imperial family's choices, and says that at the palace already everyone knows the tainted blood Philia's been carrying. Philia starts unraveling, she's crying, fighting for her life with frantic arguments, insisting it isn't true. She tries to protect her father and blurts that the emperor would never do something like this, but the words won't even come out right. Teodora shuts her down instantly, blasting a thunderous no mid-sentence to cut Philia off. Then she just grins like she's savoring every painful second of Philia's misery. Philia blurts, "Please stop," begging him to shut his mouth for once, but right as she pleads, fear claws at her, because deep down she's terrified Solon will overhear everything and uncover her secret. She spirals into pure panic, convinced that the moment Solon digs up the truth, every shot she has left to save Clarice will vanish, and this is the absolute worst-case scenario. Teodora just laughs in her face and shrugs off her fear, saying there's nothing to worry about, and then casually drops the bomb that everyone in the room is already part of the secret. Philia freezes in total shock when Teodora blurts out the one truth everyone's been whispering. She reveals that Philia isn't human at all but the real daughter of a demon. Philia looks like she's about to bolt, and Teodora pounces, asking if Philia finally gets why everyone's gunning for her. Philia slumps and stares at the ground, completely crushed. Then she admits in a low voice that yeah, the rumors hold some truth, but she's still fighting tooth and nail to say it out loud. In the shadows nearby, Solon finally clicks the truth into place, and he realizes that the secret demon bloodline is exactly what Philia has been begging everyone to keep buried. Solon can't stop thinking about how demons are usually pictured as terrifying monsters that stalk ruined old places, and it blows his mind that a princess of the empire is actually a half-blood demon. Teodora doesn't pull her punches. She taunts the emperor for losing control, sneers at the fact that he went and had a demon slave pregnant, and boom, that mess birthed Philia. She doesn't slow down. She blasts the imperial family as nothing more than a bunch of liars trying to hide their disaster, and she insists that if they truly cared about the secret, they'd have killed Philia the instant she was born. Teodora scoots in close with a vicious glare and demands Philia explain why it doesn't make sense. The words slam into Philly and she clutches her chest, fighting through the sting of hearing her own life discussed like she's some kind of mistake. Philia somehow keeps herself steady long enough to demand answers from Teodora. What's her real move? And she fires back, "If you just wanted me dead, you wouldn't drag me here to this exact spot." Teodora flashes a blinding, creepy grin at Philia and says, "Don't worry." Then she makes it crystal clear she's not about to hand her a quick, easy death. Philia's jaw drops as she struggles to understand what Teodora really means by saying she won't make anything easy. Teodora unfurls her twisted scheme and swears she'll kick it off by screaming to the whole world that a demon's daughter is hiding inside the royal family, drumming it into everyone's head that demons are the enemy. Then, once she turns Philia's life into a public nightmare, she'll finally bring the knife down and kill her, after she's had all the time in the world to break her first. Teodora thinks this is the perfect wake-up call for the public, who she's convinced have gotten way too soft on demons and beastmen lately, while Philia can barely wrap her head around it, and then it hits her like a lightning bolt. Teodora is tied to a group called the Union of Righteous Men. Teodora pumps herself up, jumps into the group, and rolls up her sleeve to flex a tattoo, a skull with a cross etched on her arm as she declares in her mind, every last pure-blooded human belongs to the Union. She rips into Philia with a venomous rant, snarling that she's not even human or a real demon. Then Teodora recoils in disgust, insisting half-breeds shouldn't exist at all because they just keep showing up everywhere and spawning more kids. Teodora starts spiraling, yelling that the mere thought of people like Philia existing makes her feel like she's about to snap. Philia freezes in silence, her hand trembling as it clutches the fabric of her dress, then she lifts her eyes and asks Teodora a quiet question. Philia demands to know why she hates demons so much, and Teodora just stares back with this dead-eyed, creepy look, then hits her with, "Isn't the answer already right in front of you?" Teodora spits out dead cold that it's only because they're disgusting. She scoots in close, eyes blazing, and demands of Philia, does she honestly believe there's any reason at all beyond that? Teodora's casual venom drips off every word, and it slams Philia so hard she can barely stand, frozen in place. She can't even manage a breath as everything finally hits. One of Teodora's men strides up, talks to her with total respect, and begs for her next order, but Teodora doesn't even glance at him, she just snaps no, deciding she'll take control herself. Teodora yells for Philia and sneers, calling her the devil's daughter. Then, as she talks, she slips out a razor-thin white wand and draws it tight, ready to blast her to the finish. One of the guards whips around, blindsided by the chaos snapping up behind him, while Teodora stays ice-cold and dead-focused, promising Philia that she'll knock her out for a while. Teodora's tattoo flashes as she raises her wand and a sharp, crackling light erupts. Then she grabs Philia's attention and swears she'll be fine, saying the spell won't hurt her at all. Teodora screams that today is the day everything ends, blasts a massive wave of magic, and for a heartbeat it looks like Philia's finished, until the shock hits her face. The light dies down and Philia slowly blinks her eyes open, alive, yes, but totally stunned, like she can't believe she survived that blast. Solon suddenly drops to his knees on the ground, throws his arm up and shields Philia, and he snaps to Teodora. The table's turned, now it's 3 against 1. Then he leans in and demands, so what are you gonna do about it? Solon leans down toward Philia, flashes her a calm, reassuring smile and speaks softly, checking every inch of her like, are you okay? After everything that just went down. Philia forces out, I'm fine, while Teodora's men lie sprawled and knocked out behind her. Then Teodora freezes on the spot, locked eyes with Solon, trying to crack the mystery of who he really is. It finally hits for Teodora. She clocks him as the tutor from earlier today, then her confusion explodes as she blurts, wait, why are you here? Teodora can't believe what she's seeing and she blurts out to Solon, why are you protecting the devil's daughter, Philia? But Philia just freezes, stunned into total silence. Solon doesn't waste a second, he tells Teodora he's doing it because he's Philia's tutor, and Philia snaps her head up, stunned by how rock-solid his answer sounds. He blurts that yeah, he's her teacher too, and on top of that, he's the magic swordsman Solon, the kind of guy who helps the weak and smashes the strong. Teodora just gapes at him, quietly repeating his name over and over like she's trying to figure out exactly who he is. Men around her start whispering in shock, recognizing it's that same Solon from all the stories. Then they start dropping names, talking about his ties to Sophia and the Holy Knights, while Teodora lets out a cold huff like, yeah, sure, totally unimpressed. She blurts out, why should any of this even matter to me? And then admits, straight-faced, that it's honestly better like this, like she's weirdly thrilled she gets to take him out too. Solon doesn't flinch, he leans in and tells her that whatever they spit about him, he's still only going to do what he believes is right. Solon drops his gaze and shouts Philia, to yank her attention his way. He tells her to lift her chin and stand proud, because he won't let her keep wearing that defeated look anymore. Even while her legs tremble like crazy, Solon tells Clarice she still showed up knowing full well how deadly this was, just to help him, and that kind of courage makes her absolutely incredible. Solon ends with, I'm honestly happy I get to serve you, and the second Philia hears it, her composure snaps, her eyes blur, and she's one breath away from tears of pure relief. Philia looks wrecked as she rushes to apologize to Solon, admitting she stayed silent when people started calling her the devil's daughter. But Solon cuts in right away, telling her she doesn't have to apologize for a thing. He shoots her a confident look and tells her straight up that no matter what title she wears, she's still his student. Hearing that, Philia's smile finally snaps into place, and she thanks him, thinking with zero doubt that he hasn't changed one bit. Philia digs in, standing her ground like a storm about to break, and stares down Solon. Then she challenges him to bring her victory, swearing that she'll keep trusting him with everything she's got. Solon flashes a razor-sharp confidence smirk, like he already knows exactly how this ends. He realizes being her teacher means he has to step up, right now, and lead by example. Solon whips his head toward the danger and swears to Philia he'll drag home a victory, no excuses. Just watch, he tells her, grinning, because he's about to serve up the exact ending she's been craving. On the flip side, Teodora's crew is cracking up, and they're clearly not taking him seriously as they line up to move in. Teodora starts taunting him, sneering that he's just a commoner pretending to be a knight, someone who's clearly not thinking right, and swears she'll make him seriously regret siding with the devil. Teodora and her guards unleash a roaring blast of magic, flames surging everywhere. Then she snarls for them to move faster and end Solon's life so they can snatch the girl. Philia snaps his name to Solon, the worry practically choking her words, but he strides ahead anyway, then tells her to trust him and step back. As that giant wall of fire crashes in, Solon whips around and cuts straight through the magic. His slash tears the spell apart and the flames vanish on the spot. The guards are losing control. One of them blurts out in disbelief that he actually carved his way through the flames, and then another guard finally snaps, "Wait, this is getting really bad." Solon eyes the panicked guard and shrugs like it's nothing, telling him that dodging and deflecting an attack like that is something he could do with ease. Before anyone can even blink, Solon rockets forward and starts laying them out. He clocks the first guard, and all the guy can do is groan as he hits the ground. Solon barrels forward without a single pause, landing a brutal hit that blasts a shockwave straight through the whole area. The guard slammed into the ground, and Teodora just froze, shaking as she couldn't believe her elite team got wiped out that fast. One guard is still alive on the ground, staring up in disbelief, panicking because there's no way they got wiped that fast. He's clawing at his own thoughts, swearing he can't let the mission end like this. With his resolve locked in, the guard clenches his weapon until his knuckles burn, and decides that since it's come to this, he'll launch one last desperate play. Solon pivots back to Teodora and tells her it's finally time to end this, and you can see it totally blindsides her. Teodora snaps completely. She knows her mission is done and they're closing in anyway, so she charges straight at Philia with a dagger, screaming that if she's going down, she'll take the demon girl with her first. Philia gets snared in the middle of the chaos. She's stuck in place as a blinding flash explodes around her, and all she can do is choke out a terrified gasp while the attack barrels straight toward her. Before Teodora can even blink, Solon slams it down and locks her in place from behind like it's nothing, smirking and asking if her little tantrum is finally over, while Teodora's mind scrambles in pure shock that he moved that fast. When the dust finally clears, Solon stands frozen, staring at the blade Teodora used, and then it all clicks. Righteous Union isn't just bad news. They're extremists who hate demons and demi-humans with a burning passion, and that's exactly why they went after the princess. Staring at the scene, Solon realizes just how dangerous it really is, and he can't believe someone from a crew like that slipped into the Imperial Palace so easily. It finally clicks. Philia was never truly safe, not at home and not anywhere in the world. Solon's face tightens as he locks eyes on the dagger and the moment hits him. He thought this would be some easy tutoring job, but now he knows he has to flip his whole mindset or the princess won't make it. Solon snaps his focus back to Philia and calls her name. His voice hits the air so suddenly that the princess jolts, still clearly rattled from everything that just went down. Solon strides over to her while the elite guard lies knotted in a brutal heap behind them, and he asks, cool as ice, if she's hurt anywhere. Philia can barely scrape enough words together to answer. Philia grips her dress tight and stares at the ground, still trembling, then quietly tells him she's okay, and that she didn't get hurt. Even though she insists she's fine, Philia can't stop herself. She stares up at Solon with a worried look, then asks if he wasn't scared at all, because the way he handled that life-or-death situation was way too calm. Solon gets blindsided when Philia suddenly snatches a fistful of his coat. She stares down, soft and steady, and finally gives that quiet confirmation that she's listening. Clutching him like her life depended on it, Philia finally drops her guard and blurts to Solon that the whole thing was pure terror. She relives every second of how scared she really was. Solon flashes her a gentle, understanding smile, no judgment at all, then nods along and tells her, straight up, that he knows it must have been a ton to deal with. To cheer her up, Solon grabs her hand and opens his heart, telling her straight that even now, after everything, he's still terrified of fighting. Philia stares at him in pure shock, swearing she can't believe someone as strong as him can feel that way too, so she blurts out, "You get scared, don't you?" And he answers, "Of course I do." He locks eyes with her and tells her, "People get scared, that doesn't mean you have to act tough or fake it like you're fine when you're not." Philia blurts out if it's really okay for her to be this vulnerable, and Solon snaps back that it's totally fine. Then he pivots fast, asking one more time if she's hurt anywhere at all. Philia suddenly creeps in close and Solon doesn't stand a chance. His face erupts in a blush as he stammers her name, completely wrecked by how close she's getting. Philia yanks him into a tight hug, and a few tears of relief finally spill into her eyes. Then she grins and tells him she wants to grow up to be just like him. Even when fear claws at her, she vows to grow strong enough to fight for the people she loves, no more trembling and doing nothing. Since the moment he first started teaching her magic, she's been craving that same protector's role. Solon can't help but feel it. Philia's words hit him hard because when he looks at her, he realizes she's only 14. And she's already got the kind of stubborn resolve most adults spend their whole lives trying to find. Philia clings to him for dear life and then, through the tears, a smile finally bursts out. She thanks him for everything, telling him she truly appreciates him for protecting her. Solon keeps it humble, tells her she's more than welcome, but just as the peace settles in, a boot clicks on the ground nearby and snaps the moment wide open. A familiar giggle bursts through the air, and the camera zooms in on a wicked little smirk as someone lurks in the shadows, watching every move. Turns out it's Clarice, standing there grinning like she knows exactly what's happening. She needles them that the princess and Solon are way bolder than she ever expected. The sweet romance evaporates in an instant. Philia snaps backward, her face flashing bright red, blurting out Clarice's name with a stammer, then scrambling to pretend nothing just happened. Clarice shuts the teasing down fast. She darts right over, twists the topic, and straight up asks Philia if she's really okay to be walking around after everything that went down. Even so, Philia's more worried about Clarice. She rushes in, checks her wounds, and starts blaming herself for everything, but Clarice just flashes a huge grin and insists she's totally fine because toughness is literally her best trait. Relief finally crashes over Philia and she bursts into tears again, this time happy ones, because she's just so grateful her friend is safe and sound. Just as their little reunion finally warms up, a voice from far away suddenly shouts the princess's name, snapping both girls out of it instantly. Solon stares at Philia's tear-streaked face and vows she'll grow stronger, because even if everything else goes sideways, she still managed to save Clarice today. Philia erupts with a loud, determined shout, and just like that, Solon realizes his very first day as a royal tutor has finally come to an end. The chaos is finally over, and Teodora and the whole kidnapping crew get dragged into custody, along with 100+ guards caught tied to the so-called Justice Union. It's a huge takedown, but the newspapers stay totally silent. They bury the whole mess behind closed doors because if word gets out about Philia's birth, it could explode, yet the truth is they're not protecting her at all. They're scrambling to keep the emperor's status and authority locked in place. Later on, Solon sits alone at a table, silent for once, and finally lets his thoughts drift as everything quiets down for now. He snaps his gaze over the chaos and replays the fight in his head, and then it hits him. If Philia hadn't stepped in and bought him time, he would have never made it to Clarice to save her. In a flashback inside the carriage, Clarice turns to David and blurts out what's going on, but Solon snaps a quick signal, telling her to shut it down so they can stick to the plan. Solon can't stop thinking about Philia's nerve. Yeah, she's a princess, but she's still only 14 and there's no way she wasn't terrified out of her mind. What blows him away is how much she trusted him, then stayed locked on her role like the plan depended on her breathing. He's relieved he managed to keep both girls safe, for now, but when he looks out the window, that tight pressure crawls in and he can't stop wondering if he'll be able to protect them once the danger starts escalating. He remembers Professor Lucy telling him he'd be an amazing teacher for the princess, and as he sits there, one sudden thought hits him so hard he freezes mid-breath. Solon's mind snaps back to his old mentor, and he can't stop wondering, does Professor Lucy really know the truth behind Philia's secret birth? He starts wondering how the heck the two of them ever even met in the first place. Then, out of nowhere, Clarice snaps his attention by calling his name. Solon shoots her a look as she walks up grinning from ear to ear. Then she tells him he looks wrecked from pulling an all-nighter and offers to brew him some tea to help him finally unwind. Solon thanks her, but she says Philia already fixed him up, so he's fine. Then he leans in and asks if the princess is finally taking a breather. Clarice confirms it. Philia is curled up in the bedroom, fast asleep right now. Turns out after Philia brewed the tea, chatted for a bit, and then bam, she just collapsed. Solon figures she'd been forcing herself through the whole night, and with the officials grilling her for so long, she was finally totally wiped out. When he hears she's resting, Solon's shoulders finally drop and a deep, quiet sigh of relief escapes him. Clarice cranes her neck toward the sleeping princess and says Philia always struggles to fall asleep, so seeing her finally shut her eyes and rest is pure joy. Clarice thinks the princess can finally breathe easy now that she feels safe, and Solon nods, saying it's all thanks to Clarice bringing her back in one piece. Clarice just giggles and tells him, "That's not what I meant," and Solon just freezes there, totally clueless, like he has no idea what he's missing. Clarice tells Solon that the princess can finally breathe, relax, and fall asleep only because he's right there with them. And Solon freezes, eyes wide and caught completely off guard as he sits by the window. Clarice's smile fades as she drops her gaze, confessing she's not strong enough to keep Princess Philia safe when danger hits, and it crushes her, because she feels like she was nothing but a burden in the chaos they just went through. She perks up and tells him she's still reeling from yesterday, because she never thought David would actually show up and rescue them. Solon instantly breaks into a sweat, mortified since she has no clue that David is really him in disguise. Solon blurts out an apology, saying he'd just been tossed from his old group and with everyone staring he felt forced to hide who he really was. But Clarice shuts it down fast, telling him she doesn't need excuses because she's just thrilled she finally got to meet him. Clara starts digging into his past and blurts out, "No way, how did they ever exile someone this strong?" Then she presses him, asking if the leaders of his old group only kept him down because they were jealous of his talent. Solon just shrugs it off with a laugh and swears it's not true, but Clara still squints at him like his humble words don't fully add up. Solon sits back and thinks about what it really takes to be a top-tier adventuring party. These crews are tiny, and every single member has to be a specialist who hits elite-level performance every time, because unlike the army, there's no room to drag the group down, and if you can't keep up, you don't get a second chance, you get cut. He remembers Cryon and Sophia letting him go and what they said right before. They weren't being nice, they were scared he'd get himself killed because he just wasn't on their level anymore. His mind rockets back even farther to when the three of them first banded together, and he remembers the moment they let a young girl slide into their ranks, even though she had zero skills to prove she belonged. That one night flipped their whole world, so they swore to each other they'd never let a mistake like that happen again, and ever since, all three of them have been brutally strict about how their group runs. Solon pauses and stares at his past, and it hits him. If he'd been in his old party leader's place, he'd make the exact same call, boot the guy who can't match the group's elite standards. Right when the air turns heavy, Clara jumps in and smashes through his thoughts. Solon freezes, then snaps his gaze to her as she steers the conversation. She tells him, "Even if those high-ranking knights can't see what you're worth, it doesn't change a thing to me." And to her and Princess Philia, he's the hero who pulled them out of the darkness when everything looked hopeless. She beams a huge smile and thanks him the right way, making it crystal clear how much it means to her that he stepped up to save her, twice. Solon flips the script and tells Clarice that the thanks should be coming from him. She's caught completely off guard, and the moment she realizes he's thanking her asterisk, she spirals into a flustered panic, wondering why on earth he'd say that. Seeing her reaction, Solon grins because he finally gets it. He's right, and there's no reason left to sit around second-guessing where he stands. He springs up, extends his hand, and tells her that from now on they're colleagues. He's pumped to work with her, and he's basically asking her to take care of him. Clarice doesn't hesitate for a heartbeat. She nods with a bright smile, grabs his hand, and locks in their new partnership with a tough, confident handshake. Seeing her blush and hide her smile hits Solon like a punch to the gut. This is bigger than feelings. He has to keep getting stronger, not just for himself, but to guard the people who are really betting their trust on him. Clarice shakes off the moment and jumps back to work. She offers Solon a full tour, promising to show him how every machine in the room actually works, and Solon practically lights up, telling her he'd really appreciate the help. Clara steps up and tells Solon, "Leave it all to me," then strides forward like she owns the place, while Solon follows right behind, itching to see what's next. Next up, the newspaper *** Daily Discourse drops a bombshell, the *** July Party ***. A revolutionary crew has assassinated the * interior minister ***. It looks like they're striking back for the *2-year-old massacre of civilians * carried out by the * Imperial Army ***. And now everyone's digging hard to piece together what really happened. The tale cuts to Philia back when she was younger, standing alone as everyone around her spits poison, ordering her to stop dawdling, calling her a useless princess, and even taunting her like they'll hit her again while she can only tremble and apologize over and over. Philia looks shattered, spiraling over the fact that everyone hates her, and she's sure it's because she's the devil's daughter. She strides down a long, dead silent hallway, gripping the tiniest thread of hope, praying that if she can just reach her father, everything will flip and they'll finally accept her. Soon, they plop her into a giant chair and command her to stay put. Philia only answers with a tiny nod, then follows the order to the letter. She glances over and spots her father, the emperor, only he's not alone. He's sunk into his throne, playing all charming with a young girl while Philia lurks in the shadows and hisses to him in whispers. Watching the emperor spoil another kid like he's their true father stings Philia so bad she shuts her eyes, realizing just how lucky that girl is. As she starts to drift away, she can't stop wishing someone would treat her with that same kind of warmth too. But right when she's about to walk out, a stranger yells, "Stop right there." Philia finally gathers her courage, strides up, and calls out to her father while he's lounging on his throne with another girl, snapping the emperor out of his surprise the second she interrupts. She's trembling with nerves, cheeks blazing red as she fumbles for the perfect words to finally kick off a conversation with him. She tries again, whispering "father" with a shaking tenderness, but he stays stone still, silent as the night, his face swallowed by the shadows. The silence shatters when the emperor coldly demands, "Who are you?" and the gut punch that he doesn't recognize her hits you like a truck. Philia is frozen in shock, barely managing a breath, as the attendant by the throne suddenly starts telling the emperor exactly who she is. The attendant scooted right up to the emperor's ear and hissed details about his own daughter like she was some random stranger. After she finally lays it all out, the emperor shrugs it off with a dismissive snap, like she's not even worth the time it takes to acknowledge she's standing there. Philia just stands there shattered, eyes bulging as the truth hits, her own father doesn't care about her one bit. The attendant tells the emperor they're done here and he just nods, moves out without a fight, while Philia turns away like her whole world just collapsed. She thrusts her hand out, staring as his back disappears into the distance, begging him to stop while her heart screams, "Why am I being treated like this?" Philia jolts awake in her bed and the chill sting of her father's rejection hits her as a dream, nothing more. Right then, Clara swings the door open and strides in, flashing Philia a bright, cheerful morning greeting. As Clarice closes in on the bed, she leans over and fires a question at Philia. Did she actually get a good night's sleep? Philia pops upright with a huge grin, says, "I did," and then beams as she tells Clarice good morning too. The story rockets to the eastern side of the empire, where you can look down from above and see the city streets roaring with life. Inside the city looms the headquarters of the St. Sophia Knights, flying a massive crested flag that marks their presence from afar. Inside the building, the tension snaps, someone slams their hand down and rages that they're the only one left holding the blame for everything going down. Turns out it's Alt, the Knight's acting vice-captain, and she's absolutely seething with rage. Notara smirks as he watches, clocking how everyone's suddenly yapping now that Cryon's gone, how wild it is that they're all getting this much backlash just because a ruin investigation didn't go their way. Alt is straight up losing control, calling Solon back to the group sounds like a ridiculous joke to her, and she's not buying it for 1 second. A sudden knock slams through the room's silence, and Alt's completely caught off guard. Alt snaps her gaze to the door and demands who's there, and a voice on the other side answers, "It's your sister." When Alt hears Flora's voice, he exhales and relaxes, then he tells her she can come in. Right when Flora steps into the room, she jumps straight back to the meeting they just finished. Flora, an astrologer and a high-ranking St. Sophia Knight, shot her worried look at her sister and asked, "Are you okay?" Alt keeps her back to her sister, stares at the bookshelf and swears she's fine, then presses, was that the only reason Flora came by? Flora admits she's freaking out, she hasn't heard a peep from Tara, and that silence makes her worry that they should have called Solon back to the group. Alt snaps her out of the worry, saying that idea got voted down already and that next time he'll make sure nothing goes wrong. Flora answers with a tiny nod like she's accepting the promise. Flora snaps, asking if Alt truly plans to send yet another scouting unit back to those ruins. Alt locks in the plan and tells everyone straight up she can't let that last disaster repeat, so she's hunting for way better people this time. Alt is clearly rattled by her sister's tone, and she snaps at Flora that she's being way too harsh. Alt whips around and demands, "Did you say something wrong?" While Flora lingers by the door, stuck in hesitation like she's afraid to push the whole thing any further. Trying to make sense of it all, Alt blurts that she never wanted those people dead, but then admits they were way weaker than she thought and she couldn't do much to stop it. Flora goes silent, watching Alt shut it down and steer the next try by choosing better people. Flora steels herself and tries to speak again, then Alt snaps his gaze over, demanding to know what she wants now. Flora cautiously asks if they can switch the next expedition to a new, easier spot, instead of marching right back to the same ruins. Alt shoots that idea down on the spot. She refuses to lower the difficulty, so Flora freezes in shock then blurts out, "Why are you being so stubborn?" Alt lays it out plain. If she plays it safe, Notaris and the guys like him will have even more ammo to drag her name through the mud, and as the acting vice captain she can't afford to look like she's about to fold. Flora is absolutely stunned by the pressure her sister is slamming onto herself, and she blurts out a protest. Alt cuts her off mid-sentence, staring off into the distance, and that snaps Flora back to reality. 2 years since they wrapped up magic school, which means they can't afford to play it safe anymore. Alt snaps that they've got to get payback on everyone back home who laughed at them for being twins, and she says the only way is to pull off one huge stunt so impossible that nobody can avoid praising them, so clearing those high-difficulty ruins is non-negotiable. Flora looks totally frazzled and says she gets the logic, but you can tell she's nowhere near okay with just how dangerous this is. Alt just tells her to breathe, then shuts down the worry before it can get out of hand. Flora snaps into confusion for a heartbeat as Alt turns and strides away toward the window. Alt whips around with a smug grin and says both of them are way tougher than Solon ever was, then she drops that Cryon is setting everything up, making their next move ridiculously convenient. Flora looks totally thrown off and blurts, "Wait, what do you mean by things being convenient?" Alt promises it's going to be a massive surprise, but for now it stays locked tight from everyone in the group. Flora only shoots back a quick, knowing nod. Alt leans in tight beside Flora's ear and whispers the whole plan, detail by detail. Flora's jaw drops in disbelief after hearing it. She can't wrap her head around what her sister is plotting. Alt strides away feeling on top of the world, asking Flora if that's not an amazing plan. Yet Flora just stands frozen, watching her leave like her sister's safety just got worse. Alt locked in on the next ruin conquest, swearing she'd turn it into a total win, and she was dead set on outshining every result Solon ever pulled off. She's sure it all felt stalled before, because Solon kept yanking them back, but now the chains are off and they're finally charging into the high-level ruins they've earned, because this is only the first step for her and she's refusing to give failure even a single inch. She's dead sure that if she nails this move, Sophia will finally shower her with the praise she's been craving. In her mind, Solon is just a pesky problem, nothing more. She's dead sure Sophia will soon see that Alt is the only one meant to stand by her. Alt admits she's actually itching for the challenge, swears she'll make it work, while the mage girl from the group quietly keeps watch from the back. She's ready to go all in to win, no matter what tricks she has to pull, while Notara's steps carry her deeper through the building. Notaris reviews the vote results, 4 screaming yes, 6 slamming no, and 2 people vanish like they never showed up, and with those numbers he's sure the rejection was basically locked in. Notaris, the sharp executive and summoner of the St. Sophia Knights, halts for a split second, mind racing as he weighs his next move. He says it was worth every second just to finally catch that frustrated look on Alt's face again, because when we cut back to her she's standing nearby, practically exploding with pure, seething rage. Notaris starts laughing under his breath as he walks away, and the next person in the hallway just stands there like, what on earth is so funny? With everything exploding around him, there's still one massive issue nobody can ignore. This entire situation demands to be faced head-on. Notaris is stewing over this. Alt doesn't really understand how tough or fragile her own people are, and he's deadly sure that if she keeps steering like this, bodies are only going to pile up. He totally knows how the noble execs roll, especially Alt. They're so wrapped up in themselves they refuse to trust anyone else's ideas, and everyone knows Alt's so stubborn she won't even sit down and hash things out with her own twin sister, Flora. But for Notara, the real nightmare is Cryon. He knows Cryon can see every screw-up Alt is making, and still he just sits there, letting disaster after disaster hit. The St. Sophia Knights are loved because they live by one ruthless rule. Their members' lives come first. At least, ever since that one old incident when they started with only 3, they've stayed undefeated with 0 deaths. Cryon used to be the policy's biggest cheerleader, so it's downright unsettling to see Tara's still saying nothing, while Alt's command wipes the team out without a single word from him. Once Solon got kicked out, Alt got shoved up to vice captain, and Cryon practically tossed her the keys to the whole kingdom. While Notaris can't shake this awful feeling, because Cryon hasn't been hanging around the headquarters much at all lately. Turns out Solon, Cryon, and Sophia were the very first trio behind the order, and because Solon was the oldest, he spent those early days throwing himself between danger and the other 2, making sure they stayed alive. That trio's bond was meant to be unbreakable, but it never stayed on Alt's side. No matter how much she raged, complained, and pushed to get Solon demoted or kicked out, Cryon and Sophia wouldn't even spare her a second of attention. But somehow that spark didn't last. Their bond finally shattered and everything snapped apart for good. Turns out Cryon was the one who drove the push to kick Solon out during that meeting. He pushed hard enough that the expulsion talk actually made it through. Notaris stands frozen, locked in thought, because he knows Solon has 0 flashy combat skills, and that's exactly the point. Solon's real power isn't brawling, it's outthinking everyone as a tactical genius and backing the team like a rock-solid support. If they keep shoving deeper into those high-level ruins, more people will die, no question. The danger keeps stacking up. And once the Knights decided raw power was all that mattered, it was only a matter of time before Solon got stripped of his vice-captain title. Notaris shrugs it off and decides he's done stressing. There's just no point anymore. As he walks off, a cold suspicion clicks into place. Cryon has to be hiding some twisted motive behind all of this. So he settles on the only move he can make, control Alt before she shatters everything. He tells himself, just act like a former soldier for now, shut up, fall in line and follow the orders. But deep down, worry still gnaws at him about where that order is headed. He's really praying Sophia will finally step in and give Alt the tough criticism she needs, so she'll get back in line. Meanwhile, the spotlight snaps over to the towering Imperial Palace. Solon's already easing into his new life there. He scans the gear, then shoots a question. Are these really the clothes he's supposed to wear for tomorrow's ceremony? Rhea tells Philia the dress fits her like it was made just for her, and Philia lights up, asking if she really looks adorable. Rhea wastes no time and says, yes, you look perfect. Philia spun to Solon and asked for his take on her outfit, then told him straight up this is what she's wearing for the ceremony tomorrow. Rhea slips in for last-minute tweaks and asks if the dress pinches anywhere, promising she'll fix it before tomorrow, while Philia smiles and tells her everything's perfect so there's nothing to worry about. Solon points out that Philia hasn't grown an inch since the last time he saw her, then he says she's all set for the ceremony, so Philia leans in and asks, is that really how you see it? Before they go, Rhea leans in and tells them, if you need anything, tell me right away. Then she reveals she's off to help Professor Lucy, and Solon smiles like, yeah, go for it, that sounds perfect. When it's just the 2 of them, Philia leans in and presses Solon, straight up, about what he means the moment he says he's seen her before. Solon tells her it happened about 6 months ago at the Magic Academy graduation, and right then Philia just pauses, then she nods like she finally gets it. Philia finally pieces it together. Members of the Imperial family really were there at that graduation event. She flicks back to the memory and realizes Sophia was the valedictorian, the big star of the whole day, practically glowing with pride, and as for the rest of the ceremony, Philia's like, yeah, I don't really remember much at all. As Solon replays that day in his head, unease claws at his chest, like he's about to realize he forgot something huge. A door swings open and Clarice flashes a smile as she tells Professor Lucy she looks absolutely stunning. Lucy beams and thanks her for the compliment. Lucy blurts out Solon. To yank his attention, he snaps his head over like he's just been caught. Lucy slips into a sleek black evening dress and turns to Sol, asking what he thinks of her look. Solon tells her the dress looks amazing on her, but Lucy's face drops. She just stares at him and asks, "That's it, that's all you've got?" She tells him it feels like his heart isn't in the compliment, and Solon insists she's wrong, then cracks and admits he's flustered because he can't even decide where to look once he sees the dress. Lucy lets him slide this time and Solon just freezes for a second, then answers with a quiet, awkward smile. Right then, Philia blurted out, cheeks blazing, asking if her outfit looks even better on her, and Lucy froze in pure shock at the sudden, cutthroat rivalry. Solon's sweat starts pouring as he snaps that you can't really compare the two like that. Philia's face falls, but Lucy only stares back with a deadpan look. Rhea steps in and tells Philia to ditch the dress before it gets all wrinkled, and Solon jumps in right away, agreeing it's the perfect call. As Rhea charges ahead, Solon finally exhales hard, finally free of that awkward mess. Ever since the Clarice kidnapping mess, Solon realizes Princess Philia is clinging to him like crazy, and the sudden shift in their whole vibe leaves him overwhelmed. He's clearly stressed to the bone. Solon clocked it instantly, Philia's way calmer now, just like Clarice promised she'd be. She's grinning from ear to ear, looking genuinely happy, but the closer she gets, the more Solon can't shake the feeling he should be worried. Sitting side by side, Solon mulls over how brutal it is to handle girls stuck in those awkward teenage years. Then Lucy suddenly turns to him and asks, straight-faced, if he's really planning to wear formal clothes for tomorrow's events. Solon tells her he isn't going to switch things up. He's sticking to his usual gear for guard duty because that's what he's used to, and when Lucy hears it, her face falls. Notaris drops a sharp point. Sure, Philia is getting her ceremony tomorrow, but that same day is when the new prime minister is sworn in too. Lucy brings up Strass, her mood drops fast, and she confesses she's just praying this doesn't turn into a total letdown. Solon nods along and tells her he's desperate to get them dealing with the famine in the West as fast as possible, while his face turns stone serious about how messed up everything is politically. Lucy just lets out a long sigh and admits he's right. Then the two of them sink onto the couch, fall into a heavy silence, and stare out the window like they're bracing for everything that's about to hit. Suddenly, Solon freezes. He forgot to ask one thing. He blurts it out on the spot, then tells Professor Lucy that the answer just hit him out of nowhere. He blurts out, "So when did you first meet Princess Philia?" Lucy's eyes widen and she studies him with a sharp, curious look as she gets ready to tell him. Solon just sat there while Professor Lucy leaned in and told him straight up he still hadn't brought this to Princess Philia yet. Lucy flops onto the couch and lays out the family truth. Her aunt isn't just family, she's Philia's mother. A knowing smirk creeps onto her face as she leans in and makes it clear this whole deal is nothing more than a proper, formal arrangement. Solon admits he figured she already knew the princess's bloodline, and Lucy fires back fast. He's right. Lucy goes on and reveals the twist. Philia was the one who begged her to keep the whole thing secret. She even tells Philia that Solon doesn't play favorites based on status, but the princess can't shake the worry. Lucy locks eyes with Solon and bluntly asks if anything feels different now that he knows the truth. Solon flashes back to the way Philia always beams when she sees him, waving like crazy, yelling his name, and grinning so wide it feels like the whole world brightens. After a tense beat of silence, Solon leans in and tells Lucy that, for him, everything stayed exactly the same. He smirks and tells her right to her face that the final outcome won't change, no matter whose family she's tied to. Lucy beams at him and goes, "I knew it." She tells him he's absolutely going to be an amazing teacher for the princess. Lucy flashes a playful smile and admits she might be spoiling Philia a little too much, while Solon just stands there, feeling the whole weight of the situation pressing down on him. Right then, the door yanks open and Philia steps out, all fresh in her new dress. Then she whips around to Lucy and asks, "So, are you going to change too?" Lucy springs to her feet and declares she'll head off to change right now, then casually adds that she wouldn't mind if Solon helped her later, sending Philia into a blushing panic while Solon just sits there, utterly stunned. Philia snaps and tells Lucy that if she tries to pull Solon into anything like that, she'll never forgive her. so Solon tries to shove Lucy out of the room to shut down the teasing, but Lucy just grins, laughs it off, and walks away. The moment Lucy steps in, the door slams shut behind her, trapping the two of them alone in silence, while Philia huffs a frustrated sigh, still visibly rattled from that whole exchange. Philia clocks Sol staring at her, flashes a grin, and asks what's got him laughing. Solon snaps off guard and blurts out stammering words, frantically scrambling for the right reply. He keeps it to himself, but he's still stuck on this. Philia's expressions flip so fast they're almost charming. Still, he shuts his mouth because saying it could totally sound rude. Philia sizes him up and asks if the real reason he kept laughing was that he actually wanted to go help Lucy change. Solon erupts in a laugh and tells her, nope, it's definitely not that. Philia doesn't even flinch, she presses him right there and demands to know what it was if he's so sure. Solon blurts out an awkward sound the moment he realizes he's totally been caught in a weird little spot. Philia just smirks at him and basically confirms, yep, he was thinking exactly what he shouldn't. When Solon pushes for more answers, Philia shuts him down with one cold line, it's a secret. It blindsides him so hard he can't even mask the shock on his face. Across the city, a shadow in a white cloak slips through the tight, winding streets like it's headed somewhere dangerous. A hooded figure slams on the brakes, tilts her head back, and boom, beneath the shadow is a young blonde girl. She lets out a worn-out sigh and says she's finally arrived. She drinks in the skyline and lets the old memories hit hard, because being back in the imperial capital feels painfully nostalgic. As she rushes down the street, a sudden gust of wind slams into her cloak, snapping it in the air like it's trying to stop her. She snaps back to that one day and admits it was her mess for missing the meeting. But the truth is, her head is still packed with everything she hasn't said. With genuine hurt on her face, she can't stop thinking about Solon, and the way he just vanished and left her alone hits her as downright cruel. Back at the palace, Solon and Philia huddle on the couch, while Lucy leans in like she's about to strike again with more teasing, and Rhea hangs nearby, ready to jump in the moment they need her. Later, Rhea's speed-walking through town, juggling errands like it's a mission, eyes darting between her shopping list and her scribbled notes, because she's got one thing marked loud and clear: she still needs to grab 3 bottles of wine. Rhea wraps up her errands at a street stall and the merchant grins, asking if everything looks right. Rhea nods and then orders 3 bottles of wine, and the shopkeeper beams as he hurries her request to the counter. Right when Rhea is about to head out, the old shopkeeper nearby faceplants and drops his bag, then potatoes and produce explode into chaos, rolling across the cobblestones as Rhea freezes, staring in shock at the mess. As always, Rhea steps in and tells the old man she'll help him pick everything up. He's grateful, but their warm little moment gets ripped away when a stranger yells at them from the street. A carriage slams up behind them and the driver's temper combusts. He yells at the top of his lungs, demanding they move, asking why they're blocking the road and barking at them to get out of his way right now. Rhea and the old man get blindsided by his sudden aggression, and the two of them snap their heads up at the driver, utterly shocked that he's being this rude when all they're doing is trying to clear the road. Rhea starts freaking out, apologizing nonstop and promising they'll clear the street in seconds, while the driver doesn't buy it at all and just scoffs at her. Inside the carriage, the passengers' patience snaps as they stare out at the chaos and ask the driver, what's going on, why the delay? They're headed straight for the imperial palace. The driver spots a maid sprawled right in the middle of the road, but the passenger doesn't even blink. He tells the driver to just plow ahead and ignore her as soon as the path clears. Right then, the old man finally gets his things together and gratefully thanks Rhea for helping. Rhea's hurt by how coldly the folks in the carriage brush her off, but she keeps her manners like armor. Then she leans to the driver and apologizes for the delay, telling him they can head out whenever they want. The passenger snaps at the driver to get a move on, and the driver clicks his tongue, clearly fed up, while Rhea keeps blurting out apologies as they finally pull away. Inside the carriage, the passenger seethes as he rattles toward the palace, gripping a fancy staff and snapping off mutters about what a total nightmare that delay was. This guy has zero mercy for Rhea. When the carriage starts rolling, he smirks to himself that even if they'd run her over and ended her life, it still wouldn't matter one bit. Back on the street, Rhea stares as the carriage rolls away and worry hits hard. Were those people high-profile guests for the ceremony coming up, and did she just ruin their day by getting in their way? After the shouting, the old shopkeeper rushes in to check on her, making sure she's really okay. Rhea forces on a brave smile and tells him she's doing just fine. The shopkeeper fumes that the carriage crowd was rude for no reason, but Rhea won't let a grudge stick. She tells him they were probably swamped with some urgent rush, so there's no point dwelling on it. The chat suddenly chills when the shopkeeper warns that the capital's been getting dangerous lately, then brings up the July party, claiming they recently struck down the Minister of Internal Affairs, and he leans in to tell Rhea to stay on guard, because out alone she can't afford to slip. Rhea's sure he's right. She's watched wave after wave of people pack up and flee the city, because things have turned wildly unstable. With dread choking the city air, she digs her heels in, grips her bag like it's armor and forces herself to keep moving, no matter the danger waiting around the corner. Staring up at the towering imperial palace, Rhea scrambles for courage, praying it all turns out okay, then her mind snaps straight to Solon as she begs for their safety. Meanwhile, over there, someone raises a ceremonial dagger to the sky and shouts to God, gearing up for a ritual that has everyone on edge. In a grand hall packed with nobles, Strauss, dagger raised high steps onto the stage, roars out a fierce speech, and demands protection for both the emperor and their nation, then swears with ironclad certainty that he'll personally face any enemy foolish enough to threaten their homeland. Strauss locks eyes with the crowd and speaks with absolute conviction, telling them their fight won't end until the empire's laws and traditions finally bring real relief to every last citizen. He finally admits what's really happening. This country is stuck in a brutal rough patch, and he makes it clear the western regions are getting crushed by a massive famine right now. He shuts his eyes for a heartbeat to drive home the stakes, then admits the war is still raging with zero sign it's about to stop. Suddenly, he flares his voice and roars that every hardship is proof the people must unite. Then he shouts to the crowd that unity is the only road forward for the empire's citizens. While the nobles lean in, Strauss hammers home one brutal truth: they've got to hunt down and crush those secret conspiracies brewing in the shadows. With foreign threats on the horizon, he snaps out their enemies' names and orders them to crush the foreign republic's ambitions in Germany. Staring at the giant imperial crest, he demands to know who's actually strong enough to drag peace and honor back to the Thracian Empire. He answers his own question by blasting out, "Look around, those people in this very room will do it." Then he snaps the whole crowd into a thunderous cheer for the emperor. The whole room explodes in cheers, screaming for the emperor to live forever, and the crowd is totally hooked, chanting that Strauss is the savior of the nation and begging for his glory. The crowd keeps roaring for him like it's nothing, and you can tell he's the main event. Lucy clocks that reaction and laughs, saying his massive popularity is exactly what she figured it would be. Professor Lucy shows up at the party too, slipping into a formal dress and casually nursing her drink, while Philia stays perched in her chair, and Lucy remarks that everything unfolding just makes perfect sense. She lays out Strauss' history to Solon, and it hits hard. This guy isn't a stuck-up officer at all. Back when he served, he came from a top noble family, but he still ate what the regular soldiers ate, and when the danger rolled in, he stepped in to protect his lower-ranking troops and got hurt for it. That's why both the highborn elite and everyday citizens trust him. Lucy adds, and get this, besides all the public hype, it looks like the emperor's a fan of him too. Behind Philia in the massive, decorated hall, Solon and Lucy stand watching, and Lucy's voice suddenly sharpens as she raises the downside. Glancing around the room, Lucy says she's expected this, but can't believe they got shoved all the way into the very last row, like they're planted as far from the action as you can possibly get. She whips around to Solon and demands, "Aren't you shocked they shoved us clear into the corner like this?" Solon can't quite hide his shock, then admits he's genuinely surprised by how they're seated. Lucy rips into him with the brutal truth. Philia's real political clout is barely equal to the lowest nobles in the room, way at the bottom, and as far as the imperial family goes, Philia is the very last rung on the ladder. Solon stays silent, face set hard as Lucy finishes her point, and she snaps that with her low rank dragging her down, Philia has to start climbing up in the world, now. Solon squints at the seating like it's a puzzle from hell, then blurts out to Lucy, "Why is everything set up like this?" Lucy dodges the question at first and tells them straight to their faces that once it all starts unfolding, they'll understand exactly what's really going on. Solon looks absolutely drained from all that brutal political talk, while Lucy decides it's time to flip the vibe and hit play. With the boring part of the ceremony finally crawling to an end, Lucy bursts out that she's heading to grab drinks, then asks Sol what he's thinking, only for him to look utterly wrecked and tell her he'll skip the alcohol. Solon snaps his focus onto Philia, who's lounging in that giant chair, and asks what she wants to do next, only to find she looks genuinely startled that he's even asked. He offers to dash to the buffet and grab anything she wants, but Philia just flashes him a polite smile and tells him she's totally fine. Solon refuses to quit and points to the cakes across the room, and even though Philia doesn't say a word, she can't stop staring at that dessert. Philia gives in just a little, and with a shy smile she slips out that if there's any chocolate cake around she'd be seriously thrilled. So Solon grins, ready to help, and dashes off to grab it for her. When Solon locks eyes with her, it hits him. Her strict upbringing and low status mean she's probably never been able to indulge in sweets like a regular girl, and the thought of everything she's had to swallow just crushes him. As he watches her, Solon decides something: no matter how rough the rest of this palace gets, he'll make sure she never feels like she has to clamp down, because when it's him taking care of her, she's allowed to let go. Solon tells Philia he's heading out to grab her cake right now, and she just gives him a tiny nod. Okay. Right when everything finally feels calm, a brutal explosion tears through the hall. Solon snaps his head around in pure shock as smoke and debris whip through the air. The room erupts into full-blown chaos. People shriek and scramble to escape, while someone sprawled on the floor screams, trying to make sense of what just exploded. Through the choking smoke, Solon rockets forward, grabs for Philia, and yells her name like his life depends on it. He bursts into her space at the last second, yanks her into a fierce protective embrace, and shields her from the blast. Solon studies her with worried eyes, then leans in and asks, "Where does it hurt? Are you hurt anywhere?" Philia's completely flustered standing that close to him, but she forces out that she's fine anyway. Then Solon finally exhales and says he's just relieved she's safe. Next, Solon rises fast, shoves Philia behind his back, and stares hard through the smoke like he's hunting the next move. Staring at the wreckage and the people crumpled on the ground, Solon snaps to the truth: this wasn't an accident. Right then, Lucy cuts through the dust, shouting at Solon, demanding with shaking urgency if Philia's okay. Lucy tells the group she's got everything handled for now, then swings the question to Solon: "You okay?" Solon laughs it off, saying he's fine, and credits the straws for shielding the emperor from the blast. Lucy panics because terror is striking straight inside the palace, and she orders everyone to drop everything, stamp out the fires, and save the people. Then a gigantic blast booms across the area and everyone jolts in shock. Solon clocks the attack for what it is: wind magic, and his gut twists because it screams that more than one mage is pulling the strings behind all of this. Then bam, a spear slams into the floor right by Jurin, and the guard vice-captain freezes in shock, stunned that the attackers somehow even slipped into the Great Hall. A hooded stranger steps into the light, and a chilling voice snaps through the crowd, asking if everyone still remembers the tragedy that struck on July 9. Then it hits: you see he's Poros, an old man, standing there gripping a weird staff with a single eye on it, and he keeps talking about the July 9 tragedy. Jurin shot his eyes up and froze cold when he spotted the man, sputtering out Poros' name with pure disbelief. Jurin barrels in, demanding to know what the Count thinks he's doing, then asks, straight up, if he's totally lost his mind. Poros snaps back that he's completely sane, then glares down at Jurin and demands, "You're the vice-captain of the guards, so why haven't you stopped this idiot ruler yet?" Jurin opens his mouth, but not a single word comes out. Jurin demands to know if the Count truly plans to spark rebellion against the Emperor, and Poros just scoffs and snaps that it's a dumb question. He's not planning to stop. Poros lifts his staff as it flares with a deadly glow, and when he glares at the guards, he just shrugs. What a shame it had to end like this. He kicks off his incantation, shouting for the wind to swirl in and circle him. Poros doesn't hold back for a second. He barks orders to the wind and has it slice through anything in his way, while Jiren just stands there, staring as that deadly magic lines up to rip the entire room apart. Right as the wind magic is about to slam into him, Solon explodes forward, hurling himself into the blast's path and swinging his sword to slice straight through that magical pressure, so the people behind him stay safe. Poros is genuinely stunned. He blurts out a sharp sound of surprise when someone shuts down his attack that easily. Jiren clocks it instantly. Solon is the one playing for the princess's side, while Solon's jaw drops because that old man knows way too much about everyone in Philia's inner circle. Solon keeps his sword up, snaps at Poros for going way too far, and then swings the blame back to the July party, the crew behind all that chaos. Solon introduces himself like he owns the room, but Poros already knows exactly who he is, so he shuts him down fast. "Hero Solon, why is someone with your status getting in our way?" Solon shrugs, saying it's simple. He can't stand the idea of his master staring at more dead bodies, and once Poros hears that he wastes no time, he decides Solon has chosen the Empire's side. Solon snaps his head back and tells him, "I'm not picking a side in this fight, I'm just sick of how the July party runs things, and that's why I'm putting a stop to them." Poros' jaw drops at Solon's stance, so he fires back, asking if that's really what Solon thinks, because he can't believe Solon, of all people, still can't see what their whole group is trying to say. Solon tells him it's a shame they can't find common ground, and the second he says it, he snaps his focus to Gyron, asking if he can even move with those injuries. Gyron's totally confused, but Solon barrels right through it, saying they've got zero time to just stand there and chat. Gyron stares down in disbelief as his wounds knit themselves back together and it scrambles his head. Solon explains he only used a tiny bit of magical first aid to get him patched up, so he'll still need a real doctor after all this is done. Solon clenches his sword, barks orders at Gyron to grab the rescue team and get everyone out, and tells him the deeper parts of the building haven't taken too much damage yet, so they've still got a real shot to save them all. Poro falls silent for a beat, then stares at Solon with a grim look and demands to know, did he really just forget what happened that day? Solon doesn't even blink, he snaps, "I remember it perfectly." Then he throws out July 9 from 2 years ago when the common folk were starving and stormed the imperial palace just to protest. Looking back on the tragedy, Solon recalls how the emperors panicked at the crowd's raw desperation and chose to end it by slaughtering everyone on the spot. He keeps the tale going, ripping into how the emperor himself ordered the citizens, people who only wanted help, to get slaughtered, and then he adds one brutal detail: even a bunch of kids were cut down in the chaos. Solon wastes no time, he makes it brutally clear he's not siding with the Empire for what they did, and he tells Poro straight to his face that he has zero intention of backing or defending those actions. Solon stares at the carnage all around them and snaps to Poros that he's doing the exact same thing, cutting down servants and nobles who can't even fight the magic, and turning himself into the very monster he swears he despises. Poros isn't buying a single word of Solon's logic. He snaps back that as a noble, saving the common people is his sacred duty, not some excuse, and he insists the blood on his hands is only a brutal price to pay if it finally means wiping out the emperor. Solon won't back off, he stares at the people Poros has crushed and dares him. "If you can't justify murdering the very citizens you say you're protecting, then you're no savior, you're the enemy." Poros pauses, looks down like the truth just hit him, and then says, "I get it," so that's where Solon stands now. Since they'll never agree, Poros shuts it down and stops talking. He shrugs, says there's nothing left to do, and smacks the base of his staff into the floor. As soon as the staff strikes, a blazing, glowing magic circle explodes out of the ground. Poros stands dead center of the pentagram while mana surges through the air. Poros doesn't waste a heartbeat. He surges forward and hurls Windblade, blasting razor-sharp gusts of magic straight at Solon. Solon's ready, he snaps his sword through the air like lightning, slicing apart that wind magic before it even gets close enough to graze him. As the magic fades, Solon finally locks eyes on the magic circle Poros is using to power every single one of his attacks. Solon dives into his gear and grins, saying he's got a slick little trick of his own to show off. He hurls a fistful of papers to the ground and screams, "This'll do it!" And right away, magic circles explode to life, snapping into place together as a brutal wall of spells to stop the Count cold. Solon's papers whip through the air like a sudden storm, snatching Count Poros off guard, and the old noble can't even process how fast everything's moving as the magic talismans start popping off all around him. Poros' sweat starts to pour as it hits him what he's seeing. He spots the stuff and blurts out, "Wait, is Solon really using talismans to fight?" Solon won't let him breathe. He blinks forward, casually tells the Count to cover his move, and closes the gap on Poros before the guy even has a chance to react. It's done in a heartbeat. Solon slams Poros to the ground and pins him there, and when the Count cries out in pain, he can't pry himself loose from that brutal tackle. Poros is pinned dead center inside this massive magic circle, and when the silence hits, it finally clicks. Solon played him like a fiddle, leaving him trapped in the perfect setup. A hand dives toward the floor, fingertips grazing the surface, and suddenly tiny bubbles fizz up while mana ripples outward like it's alive. Suddenly, massive walls of water explode up from the ground, slamming a solid barrier around the Poros. Then the Count looks up, and his eyes widen as he realizes he's trapped inside a gigantic liquid cage. Poros actually looks a little impressed, like, "Yep, this is exactly what I'd expect from a hero," and he even admits he never thought he'd get trapped in a water prison spell. Solon brushes off the praise and snaps at the Count that he's wildly overrating him. Then he clocks how effortlessly relaxed Poros looks, too calm for a man who's just been captured, so Solon knows he's got allies lurking close. Solon's whole vibe shifts. He locks eyes with Poros and glares him down, demanding to know exactly where the rest of his crew is hiding. Back at the palace, everything feels perfectly fine until a strange sound slices through the air. Rhea jerks in shock, scanning the halls while Solon snaps to attention and tries to figure out exactly where that noise is coming from. The story snaps straight to the attack, and one guard's eyes go wide with pure terror as he realizes everything's collapsing, staring, stunned at the news about the officials. A towering black plume blasts into the sky like a warning flare, and right there, panic erupts. Someone is shouting for Princess Philia while Solon braces for the worst. Flames swallowed the entire place, and a young official shoved his way through the heat and choking smoke, grunting with every step as he fought to push through the wreckage. He starts coughing hard from the thick smoke, and it hits him. The fire is sprinting out of control, too fast for them to stop, so he panics and screams for the princess and Professor Lucy. Surrounded by rubble, Professor Lucy and Philia hunker together, soot-smeared and battered to the bone. Then, amid the chaos, they shout for Solon to come find them. Lucy tries to keep it together, but it's already falling apart. Turns out neither she nor Solon is a real master of the big league water magic they need to crush a fire this massive. And it gets even uglier. The Imperial Palace mages are fully restrained, pouring out every last ounce of power just to keep the Emperor alive, while the rest are left to fight for themselves. The horror ramps up fast when they find out every single exit to the outside has been sealed tight. Now, with people crumpled across the floor, it's clear they're trapped for good. The young official hits his breaking point. He sprints through the halls, drenched in sweat, panicking hard because he has zero clue how to save everyone. Amid all that chaos, a voice screams toward the heavens as a massive magic circle blasts to life above the shattered hall. Solon snaps his head up, stunned by the sudden glare. As the magic circle throbs, a desperate voice begs for rescue, screaming that everyone trapped in the burning palace must be saved from disaster. Even as the screams roar behind her and the flames rage higher, Philia feels the whole air on the floor start to twist and turn around her. Suddenly, rushing water roars through the area, and as the magic hits, the brutal heat vanishes, washing the hall in a scorching wave that smothers every flame. Solon just stands there, dripping wet, scanning the ruins as it hits him. The fire really died out. He can't help wondering if they were truly saved until Philia calls his name. Philia exhales in relief that everyone's safe, and she credits Lucy for keeping her protected through the worst of it. Then Lucy wheels on Solon and asks, "Are you okay, or did you get hurt in that mess?" Solon tells her he's fine, and Philia's face lights up with this massive, relieved grin, like she just found out he's standing right there, unbroken. Solon drops to his knees, grabs Philia's hand, and blares out that he's sorry for putting her through all that fear. Then Philia snaps back that he shouldn't feel guilty because he's the one who stepped up to protect her and everyone else. She keeps his hand in hers and tells him, "If you hadn't been there, it would have been so much worse." And in that moment it's clear there's zero reason for him to apologize. Moving on, Solon's face turns serious as he tells her, "No, that's not right," then drops the bomb. The water magic that just saved them didn't come from him at all, and Philia is left totally stunned and lost. Right as Solon still has Philia's hand in his grip, a voice snaps out from the side and yanks his name into the air, so hard it completely blindsides him. Solon cranes his head up, and the second he spots the figure in front of him, everything clicks into place. He's staring at the exact magic that once saved them, and he instantly knows it because it belongs to someone he's met before. He blurts out Sophia, as she stands soaked in the rain, dead serious, gripping her staff like it means something. When I look back at Sophia's days at the academy, I can still hear the other students whispering about her nonstop. They couldn't wrap their heads around how she pulled off enrolling as the youngest top student in their entire year. The chatter didn't die down. Some students insisted she only got in through connections to a top noble family, and they wouldn't stop hammering the same point: she was just 9 years old. Her classmates felt snubbed, like, even though she was younger, she never cracked a smile or tried to be friendly, and they couldn't stop complaining. They swore she thought she was better than everyone else, so they drove her into isolation. She'd just sit under a faraway tree, alone, while the other kids played without her. Sophia stared in silence. Then it hit her: this academy was starting to feel just as lonely as the life she had left behind. As she watched people peel away from her, it hit her hard. No matter where she went, she'd always end up the outsider. Right when she was lost in her own little world, someone popped up beside her and blurted, "Hello," and she nearly jumped out of her skin. Sophia snaps her gaze upward in shock, eyes stretched wide as someone drags her out of her lonely spiral. Young Solon stands there grinning, clutching a book like it's no big deal. Then he introduces himself and asks Sophia, straight up, if he can slide into the spot right beside her. Back then, Sophia was sure she'd always be the outsider, even at the academy. Then she sat under a tree feeling alone, and Solon marched right up to her and shattered that loneliness. The story snaps right back into the post-attack chaos. People race in every direction, workers yelling for anyone with a minor injury or a hint of sickness to get over there, because everyone's clawing for treatment as fast as humanly possible. Sophia, wrapped in her hooded saint robes, stands right at the center of it all. She tells the crowd she'll heal everyone in order, but one frantic woman starts pleading, begging Sophia to find her child before anyone else. Sophia moves in fast and kneels beside Count Poros, who's perched on a chair, helping him out as she works. Then she leans in and asks, "Do you feel any pain anywhere else?" Poro looks away and insists he's fine, and Sophia's like, "Good, now if anything starts feeling weird, you tell someone right away." While Poro sits there, his mind spirals. He can't process how someone like him, a high-ranking noble, ended up being tied to the extremist July party. People nearby burst into whispers, swearing there's no way Poros walks out of the death penalty after what he pulled, that he's finally getting what's coming, while the real weight lifts off everyone's shoulders because the Emperor and Prime Minister Straws made it out alive. Under that huge magic circle hanging from the ceiling, the conversation keeps roaring on, because everyone realizes they'd be in real trouble right now if the saint hadn't stepped in to save them. Still, people can't shake the weird feeling that Sophia showed up at the ceremony today, but as for why she was there, nobody has a solid answer. Solon stared at the building, his mind racing as he wondered if Sophia was really inside. Sophia settles outside with a crowd, and the whole group goes stone still, until a tiny gasp of surprise snaps the silence in half. One of them asks Sophia if she's really giving up the night crew, and Sophia, eyes fixed on her lap, just quietly nods, "Yeah, I am." The mage girl's jaw drops at the news, and then Sophia leans in like she's been waiting for this. She tells her she planned to leave from the very start. The guy nearby looked wrecked with stress, blurted out a heated argument, and insisted that even if she planned it, there's still way more to consider. He points out that Solon, Cryon, and Sophia forged the Night Order together over the last 4 years, and even after Solon got kicked out, Sophia still runs the entire organization as captain. Sophia locks eyes with Solon and tells him the only reason she could even survive the weight of being captain was because he stood right there, backing her up. She leans in and tells you, straight up, that her choice has way more behind it than you think. Sophia finally admits it: those nights just don't feel like home for her anymore. Hearing that, Solon snaps her gaze aside, and all she can manage to whisper is her own name. Sophia shoots her hand out and clamps down on Solon's hands, staring him in the eye as she demands, does he still remember that promise they made back when they were just rookies? She reminds him of the vow they made to forge the strongest Night Order anyone had ever laid eyes on, and Solon snaps his gaze back to her, admitting he remembers every word of that deal. Sophia presses on, saying it was bigger than that. Then she stares at the Saint Sophia Knight's symbol and admits they truly pulled it off, becoming the Empire's strongest without question. But she snaps back and says that promise wasn't really kept just because you got strong, then flashes back to when they were kids, when she told him becoming the best was only the first step. Locking eyes with Saul on the right, Sophia finally drops her guard and tells him the truth. Her whole goal was never about just her, it was about what they could build together. She tells him she just wanted a real place where they both belong, because to her, it doesn't matter how strong the knights are if their order can't feel like home for the two of them. Solon can only blurt her name as she keeps going, then she admits she can't just bail on the knights on a whim because a captain doesn't get to toss her responsibilities aside. Right as they're talking, a thunderous voice slices through the air. Someone demands, "So you're really quitting the knights, huh?" And the entire crew just goes stone still. A stern man dressed in fine noble clothes strides up to them with a heavy, unshakable expression. Sophia's blood turns cold because she realizes, with a jolt, that it's her father. The man shouts her name and Sophia jolts like she's been struck. Her face screams pure terror at the sight of him standing right there. Sophia's dad leans in and reminds her that she launched the Night Order even though he fought it from day one. Then he stares her down and asks, "After 4 years of work, are you really ready to walk away from it all?" He hits her with even harder words, grilling her like, "Are you really tossing everything aside just for some commoner?" Behind them, Sophia looks absolutely terrified and Solon just stands there soaking up the insult like it's nothing. Sophia tries to back Solon up and begs her father to stop being so cruel, but he won't even listen. He snaps at her to shut her mouth right away. Solon clocks the man as Marquis Gorges and can't believe he's exactly the same, unchanged. He knows this guy. The moment he decides you're below him, he turns the rudeness up to max. The Marquis won't stop rolling, and Sophia can't escape the memory of 4 years ago, when she swore she'd help the family if she carved out her own name as an adventurer, while he admits the only reason he ever gave her that chance was because of that promise. He lets her have it. Her Night Order is raking in a fortune right now, and that's the only reason he's been swallowing her selfish attitude. Sophia looks wrecked and she can't even find the words to fight back. She tries to start explaining what she feels, but her throat tightens and the words vanish. She's trapped, frozen under her father's pressure. Right when Sophia is about to snap, Solon throws himself in front of her and blocks her father's way. Then he speaks straight to the Marquis, shocking them both out of their seats. Solon leans in and tells the Marquis, "Sophia has done more than enough for your house," then slams the point home. Her rise has lifted the family's name and she's already handed him nearly all the money she's earned. The Marquis doesn't even blink and fires back, asking what he's trying to prove. Then he claims it's just common sense that a kid should hand everything to their parents, while one of the other girls nearby watches the whole fiery clash like it's about to explode. Marquis Gorgeous yanks Sophia's arm and growls, "Come with me." He promises that once they're back at the house they'll push the crayon marriage plan forward right then and there. Sophia screams as he drags her along. Sophia lunges to protest, begging her father to stop, but he shuts her down. Solon just watches from the sidelines, furious and powerless because there's nothing he can do for her right now. Gorgeous keeps yapping at Sophia to keep moving as he shoves and drags her across the courtyard. Solon and the others just stand there, helpless, watching her get torn away. Solon is at his breaking point, teeth clenched tight, watching that man treat Sophia like she's nothing but property, and he snaps his own name under his breath just to keep his cool. Right then, a sharp voice cuts through the chaos, calling the Marquis by name. It's Princess Philia, and the anger on her face says she's not buying any of this. Philia marches right up to them and tells the Marquis she wants him to stop snatching her guest away anytime he feels like it. Then Solon's jaw drops because her sudden appearance totally catches him off guard. Gorgeous slams on the brakes, whips around, and stares back to catch whoever just called his name. He's still gripping Sophia's arm, but now his whole world snaps to the girl who just cut in. The Marquis is completely baffled and blurts out, "What's happening?" while Solon just stands there frozen in shock because he never saw the princess stepping in like that coming. Philia strides on, calm and polite as a smile clings to her face, and even with the chaos all around, the full authority of the imperial family radiates from her. He shoots Gorgeous glares at her, clearly seething because some kid is talking back. Then he demands, "Who do you think you are, coming at me like that?" The whole room snaps to attention the second Philia's royal crest swings from her neck, catching every single eye at once. Marquis Gorgeous spots the emblem and his blood runs cold. Only the imperial family bears that mark, and he starts sweating like he just crashed into a trap. He bows with care and admits, voice trembling, that he's met her for the very first time. Gorgeous squints, fighting to place who she is, and for one shaky second he pauses like he's hunting for the name behind that face. He finally blurts out, "Are you the 17th princess, Iris?" And you can tell he's unsure, but now that he knows she's royalty, he straightens up and shows her the respect she deserves. Philia just lets out a mischievous giggle and tells him he's close, almost there but not quite, then drops the bomb. Iris is actually her older sister, and she introduces herself with full flair as the 18th princess Philia. Gorgeous snaps completely, starts blurting apologies for his rude behavior. And while Solon stands back and watches, Gorgeous turns to the princess and demands to know why she's even spending time with his daughter in the first place. Philia refuses to back down and snaps that she already told him not to yank her guest away. Then Gorgeous fights back, saying he's the parent, so he should be the one calling the shots for Sophia. Philia smirks and says, "Yeah, I'm your father," but she's not done with him yet. She locks eyes with him and bluntly tells him, "A man who won't even hear what others say isn't fit to be a father." Gorgeous goes speechless as the insult hits, and Sophia and Solon stand there frozen in pure shock, because the princess just called him out like that.